This is the latest edition of the NCS Nickel City Soundtrack podcast, and we are here with all the members of the band Union except for one.
Sprig.
Two. Yeah, where's Sprig? We're without Mike and without Sprig.
Sprig's got kids too. He's putting them to bed.
Probably, yeah. That makes sense, actually. So, what are you guys up? How you guys doing? How is Union in 2021?
Separately, we're crushing it, I think.
Crunchy, we're crunching. Still got those metal harmonics.
Yeah, awesome.
Harmonics.
Very cool.
My audio was messed up, so I had to move rooms.
What's up, Chris? Yeah.
What's up with y'all?
It's good to see your face.
Oh, thanks. My face likes being seen sometimes.
Alex, I think I've met before, right? You're from Buffalo. Yeah. And then I know Derek. I don't know if I know Christopher, though. Are you from Buffalo, too?
I am.
Oh, okay.
For a very long time, Jeffers thought that I hated Union because apparently I'm the only person who ever smiles at hardcore shows.
What?
This is so weird.
Why would you hate Union? What? That was so weird. I never understood that. We were like the nicest, goofiest bunch of people.
No, I think you may have, Chris. It's okay. It's fine.
I don't think that I ever hated Union, but I'm not gonna lie. I thought that like in the beginning when you guys were like, "We're New York hardcore in Buffalo."
Yo, there's way too much stuff going on right now.
What's that?
There's way too much stuff going on right now.
That's true. That's valid.
But I love Jeffers. I always liked you. I don't think I met the other guys.
That's why I'm surprised Vic doesn't know you. I feel like I saw you a lot.
Maybe I do, and you just look a lot different.
I was gonna say I also look a lot different than I did back then.
Okay, that makes sense.
He's wearing more clothes. His hair's a lot grayer.
I had more.
You were the naked guy.
Facial hair. Okay. Yeah, that was
cool.
me. But
people used to call Chris Puck because he was always on his bike.
Yeah. That actually was started.
I don't know if that helps.
Puck?
That was started by.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was started by. I don't remember if Paul Bierker started that, but it started in that house.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Who was the guy? The big dude that used to have the septum ring, that could beat us all up?
Mike Trance.
Mike Trance.
That's the guy. I've been trying to think of that. Trance.
Yeah.
I still talk to Mike all the time.
Oh, he lives near you, right, Keith?
No,
Some piercing.
Yeah, he had a spike for a while. Trance moved to Martha's Vineyard, and so he's still out there.
He was so big.
I still talk to Mike all the time.
Troy, right?
Grew up in Troy, yeah. So he was it was him and Phil Fuentes. Remember Big Phil?
Yeah.
Because Phil was in Path Resistance. He was part of the Syracuse, that whole crew.
He always punched the floor a lot. Did a lot of that floor punching thing.
I might have a picture of Trance floor punching somewhere. Let me see if I can pull it up.
I got some funny stories, man.
You have that picture of the big Jesus on his back while he's doing that, right?
It's there too, yeah. I'm gonna see if I can find it real quick while we're getting ready here. Let me see.
I should text Mike to tune in, although it'll be.
Do it. I haven't talked to Trance in forever.
Yeah, I'll link you outside of this. We don't need that kind of energy right now.
What?
Wasn't he a raver too, or am I imagining that?
Mike would, for a straight edge dude, Mike would go where the party was at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was no surprise when he stopped being straight edge. There was no surprise.
Yeah.
Oh, he stopped being straight edge. Okay, that's right.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I got to real quick tell you that I've been listening to episodes burning through this. My favorite was when Vogel literally told you either name names or shut up about some of the rumors that you guys were throwing at him. Where he was like either you name names or shut up.
I didn't want to put people on blast because some of those people listen to the podcast and they don't need their business put out there like that.
It was great. I love listening to anything Scott's on because he has no memory, and that's how I feel about stuff.
Dude, his memory is
This is why we need Mike.
Some of the worst 3 that we've encountered.
Yeah, like if you've got questions for us that don't involve specifics, like now's the time to ask them because
Mike will have it down to the minute and the second.
I'm surprised he wasn't the first one in here.
Ah, here
Maybe
he is. He's coming.
There he is.
Yeah.
There he is.
There he is.
Miguelito Raton. There he is.
Oh man.
Scott's here too. Hey, Scott.
What's
This
up,
is
dude?
absurd. There are 10 people in here now.
what's up,
10,
Spring?
10 people in here.
This is like a renegade show. It's like a renegade show.
Oh, 10. Yo, can I just give Ben a cheers before we get started?
Me? Thank you, Sprague. How are you, buddy?
Good to chat with you, man. I got to see Keith.
Oh, I've got shaving cream. Cheers. I've got Edge shaving cream, all right?
Oh,
Let's start this interview because that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
Okay. For those who are listening to us bullcrap for a while, this is the NCS podcast, and we're talking to Union, a Buffalo hardcore band from the 90s. Let's do it like this. So everybody introduce yourselves and tell us what you did in Union. Or actually, hold on a second. Alex, Chris, and Derek, introduce yourselves.
My name's Alex.
I'm Derek.
And I'm Chris.
And that's NCS Podcast. Now, Union, let's talk about yourselves.
Uh-oh.
Start with Keith.
We lost Mike.
Yeah,
I
guess.
would go singer, guitar, bass, drums, but that's
Okay.
Okay. All right. I am Keith Brown. I was the singer vocalist of Union.
my name is Vic Lazar. I was a guitar player in Union.
I'm Scott Sprigg. I was the second guitar player in Union.
I'm Rob Antonucci. I was the third guitar player in Union. Not all at once, though.
We should have, man.
I came at the end.
Should have.
That would have been sick.
I'm Ben, and I played the bass.
All right.
Oh, is that me?
Yeah, Mike Union.
That's me. I played the drums.
Cool. All right. So, you guys were a band in Buffalo. So where is everyone now? Where are
I
you
live in-
located?
I live in Schenectady, New York, the Capital District, which is sort of a part of a Albany, Schenectady, Troy area.
Okay.
I'm in Covina, Los Angeles, California.
I'm back in Buffalo, New York after 14 years in Orange County, California. Vic and I overlapped for a little while out there. That was nice. Getting to see
That was
him.
cool. Yeah.
Definitely miss it.
Yeah.
I live south of Rochester. I'm in Geneseo now.
Ben, where's Ben?
I'm in Jersey City, I think.
Really?
Fair enough.
Not in Ronkonkoma no more?
No, no. I grew up on Long Island. Sprig likes to talk about that.
Dude, I got kicked out twice already. What are you doing, Mark?
I'm not doing anything to you. It must be the internet.
Oh, it's
You haven't-
Chris, man.
You haven't even said the magic words to get kicked out yet.
Where the
Oh,
magic words get kicked out.
You know what the
There you
magic
go,
words
man.
are. for
I
them
do.
to get kicked
I do
out.
know what the magic words are.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it.
Nope, because you'll get kicked out.
Yep.
All right. So,
You're wearing your own band's T-shirt.
Hey,
before,
this was before I was in their band, though.
yo. Okay. So how did Union start? Who wants to start it?
I'll go.
I think that's all, Mike. Yeah.
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 I don't know. There's me and Brown decided in the fall of '94 that we wanted to play in a hardcore band in Buffalo.
What's up with Jeffers?
Yo,
I think his connection's
Keith,
kinda
take
wacky.
over.
All right.
All right. So Mike was one of the first people that I met when I came to Buffalo. Mike was a year ahead of me, and we just talked about like we've been at some of the same shows and stuff. Like we
That's
were.
great. That's me. I
there
didn't
you
even
are.
say Patrick Swayze even once. What's going on, Chris?
Mike, I had only just picked up the fire. Go ahead.
Oh, well, yeah. Me and Brown wanted to do a band. We had similar interests in the bands that we loved. I had actually met Ben before he even came up to Buffalo because my buddy Alex, who went to Damon, and Ben lived in the town over in Long Island for my aunt. Me and my buddy Alex were at I think the Smith Haven Mall, Ben.
It was, yeah.
I met you and Nicole there.
Yep.
And I told Ben, he said he was going to Buffalo, and I said, good, when you get up there, you're going to be in a band with me.
You said you're going to be in my band.
I did, didn't I?
And I said, okay.
So it was very specific. At first it was me and Keith trying to start a hardcore band, but I was still playing drums in that alternative rock band with Aaron Chicken McPherson and Eric Polovich.
Hashtag Chicken McPherson.
That's right. Hashtag Chicken McPherson.
What did McPherson do in the alternative band?
Yo,
singer.
Okay.
He was a singer.
Okay.
Didn't Ben play guitar in Filter for a second?
I did for a hot second. I played on some classic hits such as "Chains in My Brain."
All right, you got kicked out 4 times. I'm going to switch to my phone because this obviously isn't working.
Okay.
Chains in My Brain.
Can't believe you guys
just
are doing
30
filthy
seconds,
dirty like
but that was a key moment. Obviously, if Ben says "Chains in My Brains,"
Are there any MP3s of this? Chains in My Brains.
there are. McPherson, sounded strangely like Glenn Danzig.
It was good.
Really?
Yeah, and it was just like. I'm not saying it was good by any stretch of the imagination, but it was very, very just 90s alternative. Actually, it was pretty terrible, but it was a lot of fun. It was awesome. Like, we played a show at the Orchard Park teen center, and the band before us played a Rage Against Machine cover. They were like, "Oh shit, we were going to play that. What are we going to do?" So when we played it anyway, but the kids went nuts.
Yeah.
And
he's like,
gone again.
Ben,
He's like the wind. Patrick Swayze, he's like the wind.
we should all just guess how that
And
ended.
dead.
You
I
want me
don't
to just pick
remember.
this up now? I could just pick this up now.
Yeah, keep picking
Go
up
with it.
Jeffers there.
So I knew Vic from living in the same dorm, and Vic and I had like just jammed a little bit, hanging out and like whatever. And Vic is like a sick guitarist. Like Vic is one of the more talented people I've ever played music with, like ever. Like
Thanks, Keith.
Vic's like got it right, like savant type stuff, right? So I was like, listen, and we like were into like Alice in Chains. We shared some of the same kind of heavier music, and so like I started like being like, check this out. We listened to heavy and heavier stuff, and so like Mike and I were talking about being in a band. Vic sort of was in the picture, so I was like, listen, like maybe we like let's start jamming. Let's see what we can pull off. And like Vic and I actually wrote a lot of songs like on acoustic guitars in the dorm room, which is like wild for a hardcore band to like be able to do that. But yeah, and then so like we started off where I was playing bass and singing at the same time, which was like not great at all. Mike claims that like it sounded good. I don't think it sounded good, but that's how it started. It was fine. But like I didn't want to do that because I had played bass like in a punk band in high school, and so we played like we tried out a couple bass players, like Jeremy Mazguy played bass for a hot minute.
That's right.
Get him in here.
Yeah. So yeah, I haven't talked. Literally, this was Face Down, right? So Face Down days. So we like sort of played some basement shows because we were hanging out with a lot of people playing like in University Heights and doing like basement. Like we would play with like Towpath, like
And
straight up.
Robots Kill.
What up, Glenn? If he's
Robots
listening,
Kill.
listen. Robots Kill. So we played like a lot of just really fun shows there. And then Jeremy was like, "This is not my scene. I don't want to do this anymore." And so we just drafted Ben into it. And like that's how we were for a while. And then like we were hanging out with Scott, and I don't know, maybe Scott should pick up from here. Like when Scott joins the band.
Yeah, but you got to remember, me and Scott had been hanging out, skating, and going to shows and things like that, like a year before you guys even got to Buffalo. So we had already had a relationship,
like
very intimate.
Yes, we were definitely in a relationship.
You hear that?
We would hang out a lot. Just I remember watching you guys play at UB at the Black Box Theater, and basically just came to hang with Mike, and that was what everyone did once a week there, which was just tons of fun.
Yeah.
We were going to tons of shows together, and I just remember seeing you guys playing at Black Box, and I'd never been in a band before, but had been playing a lot and had a failed attempt at making a Sam I Am sounding band with Tim Turcotte, actually, who ended up doing Copper. And obviously that was something Mike loved and other guys in the band loved, but still hardcore kid, and saw them play at Black Box. I was like, dude, you guys are writing some new material. I've been watching you guys play. You're getting better. I'm ready to do a band as well. Would you be on board with having me jam with you guys? So we just had a few practices together, clicked both musically as well as personally. I mean, we just had some of the best times hanging out and then writing new tunes.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah,
your- was
That
your-
summer, there was a summer where me and Scott spent too. Remember, Scott? I stayed with you guys for a little while, and we got real. You and I got real close. Like we had a really nice summer, learning the song, like
Ooh.
really tightening our guitar playing, and
Summer '95, right? You had stayed with Duran and Lockport too.
yeah. And I was coming out to stay with Scott sometimes, and we were just, I felt like that was when the band really kind of came into like more of a, we tightened the bolts. And I think our first show was that Lockport show, right? The Kenzie's. I feel like there's a video.
We
of
played
it
there a
somewhere.
bunch of times. You mean our first show was a 5-piece?
Yeah.
No, that was with Lifetime at Showplace. That was my
Oh,
first
that's
time.
right.
I remember being.
That was fun.
Yeah, I remember having a little bit of the butterflies beforehand and
Yeah.
finished up. I could have played better, but that show at
so
Kenzie's
awesome.
was like the first great show. That show was better. Worked out the kinks.
Mhm.
But yeah, that summer, like you said, Dick, tons of fun hanging out.
Oh, it was
For
so
me,
cool.
as a musician, it was interesting because I had never played anything other than straight tuning. So for me to play drop D tuning was something totally different.
Right.
It took
Yeah.
me a moment to get used to that, but
I know.
yeah, so that worked out really well, and it was great to bounce ideas off of Vic as I started to get more comfortable into the band and stuff like that.
Yes. And he's punching the floor.
Perfect.
Love
His
it.
ego does not need for him to make an appearance here.
No, let me just say, when he got that Triple X heart tattoo, after he got it done, the first person to see it was like, "Why did you get a KKK tattoo?"
Really?
Yeah.
Derek had a question before. Sorry, Derek.
Sorry, Derek.
I was just no, it's no problem. The demo was recorded at this point before Scott was in, or that's
Oh, all right. Let's go back. Do we count the face down stuff, or only from when we did like a demo as Union?
Union.
Okay.
Indignation.
So
Indignation.
there was a face down demo, and then obviously we changed our name to Union.
So why did you change the name? Let's
Oh.
not just blanket.
Okay.
Skip over that.
Right.
Let's.
So we're playing. Me and Keith and Vic are playing at Willow 104
Yes.
up in the falls, right?
I remember
With like
that.
Against All Hope, and
Oh, that's
I
right.
think it might have been Amphetamine Love Child.
Oh, God,
Robots
I forgot
Kill.
about that band.
Robots Kill, and I think that Rick Miami from Virus X did the show. That really old guy who.
Yeah.
He did
I
the
remember
show.
him.
Yeah. So
Jesus.
when we were up there, we kept getting.
Sleeperger Bob was there too.
Yeah, these Canadian kids kept asking me like, "Oh man, we love Face Down. You guys from Ontario, right?" We're like, "No, what are you talking about?" Right? I told the guys, we were like, "Well, whatever. We didn't know." But then like I think it was probably maybe Rob, Bob, and Eric Elman were they didn't know us at the time either. I think they thought we were the other Face Down too. We're like, man, apparently this other Face Down is pretty popular. We should probably change the name.
I mean, if it was Rob, Bob, and Eric Elman asking you about it, that was in a particular genre of the scene, and I understand why you wouldn't have known about it.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, yeah. Fair enough. But the ironic thing, the funny thing, I don't know if Ben and Keith and Vic remember when we came up with the name Union, like what we were doing at the time.
Driving to the mall.
That's right. What street were we on?
We were driving on Union.
Oh, jeez.
Oh,
That's
man.
I was in the backseat of your Renault, the red Renault.
That's right. That was the one to watch. Because if you were Buffalo hardcore, you had to have a Renault at that time, like Maz Guy and Ranger, you know, and Abel. You had to have a Renault. And Glenn Lasky, too.
Dude.
You know, there were like 5 Renaults in the entire world. They were all sold here in Buffalo, and 5 hardcore guys bought it.
Wait, was it one that?
I
Let me
love you,
bring
Mike.
one up.
Yeah, I'm convinced this union interview is just another excuse to get Jeffers on here for comedy hour.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it. It makes me laugh, man. I miss you guys.
Miss you guys too, man.
We were joking about how like, oh, there's going to be 10 people in this, but with Jeffers, it's really like 15.
Hey, I requested that Mark use, you know, Robert's rules for meetings. And, he
Yo.
agreed to.
You sent like a 5-page document that nobody's reading on how to run a freaking podcast. Like, that's not happening.
Who?
Mike had terms. Mike had
Yeah.
terms for this.
There's one term, and he knows what it is.
There it is.
Was one of
Oh!
these?
Not quite.
That's a car.
Was that the car?
No, that's a lay car. That's French. All right. The Renault is also
Sure.
French, but I had there was Renault Encore,
Yeah.
and jeez, I can't even remember what the other one was called. I had the hatchback.
I gotta find this thing. Hold on one second. Let me.
I had
Let me
like
see if
I had gold rims on it. It was badass,
Mike, you had a
I-
really good sound system in that thing, though. if I
man.
remember
Always.
Oh, kicker, all the
man. Is
way.
it one of these things?
Nah.
No,
that's
that's a car.
that's still a car.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's a Renault Alliance.
Oh, I'm gonna pull one up right now.
And
That sounds
I
familiar.
had an 8-ball shifter. I had 2 15-inch pile drivers in the back. I had like a 3,000 watt amp.
And
And
you
you
wonder
had this-
why I didn't like Union. Like,
You had
right
this-
there, that's why.
You had this deck of tapes, man. Like, I mean,
Was it one of these?
75
That's-
tapes in the thing.
That's the Encore like Lasky and them had. I had the Alliance hatchback.
Okay. Fair
Oh my
enough.
God.
It's so good.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, Vic, I still have like all of those tape boxes, and Bob knows about it too because he's been in 10,000 bands with me. You know, the tapes used to go everywhere.
You have to explain that I'm Bob and Rob.
Oh,
Bob,
We have to go over this all the time.
Yeah, there's only one Rob, and he's not here, so
No,
you
I'm
need
not
to explain
Rob. I'm Rob to everybody except for a small group of people who's named Mike Jeffers. And Aaron McPherson, to be fair.
Exactly.
And Sandy.
and you are over 40 years old, so you're now Bob. That's it. That's my car.
That's it right
That's
there.
it.
Yeah, picture it in maroon.
I think that lower picture there was a maroon one.
Yeah,
That's like, what is that?
Yeah, it was that color, but the body style in the middle.
Amazing.
Yeah. Like I said, I had an 8-ball shifter. I had blacked out windows on that. I had a LeBra.
That's true.
I mean,
That's true.
I've
It was a
got
leather car bra. I'm sorry. For the younger people that might be listening, that's a leather bra for the front of your car.
Yeah. And your car doesn't have tits. Don't worry. That's not something new.
I think at this point it would be a great time to bring up how everyone was living during that time of the band with people in the dorms and how we practiced, because looking back on it, it blows my mind how we would practice.
How did we practice?
I used my connections working at Residence Life to get us into 170 Fillmore lecture hall to practice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And yeah, so we all lived in the dorms. I had my own room up in the tower next to Big Bill Boltrick.
Oh yeah, Big Bill.
The Bill of Rights. And then you guys lived down what? Was it the second or third floor?
We were in
I
the
don't
quad.
know.
We were in the quad somewhere, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben and I and Vic lived in a quad, right? So Ben and I shared a room, and then Vic got assigned a random guy, Tamir, who ended up being like one of our best friends.
Oh, I love
That
it.
guy had no idea what he was getting to. Like, we partied, like VOD. We had a party and VOD partied in that room. Like, with us, and Tamir was like, "What is going on right now?" Like the band Vision of Disorder, like partying with us in our dorm, like.
Tim was trying to get us to find them powders or something, right?
Yes.
Allegedly.
He was trying to get you guys to kill that Blair girl because he said she looked like a buoy.
What?
What?
What does that even mean?
Do you remember? Well, dude, she was very, very rotund in the middle area.
Oh my god.
Oh, like okay.
And then you had your buddy Canadian Steve would come down and show you guys funny videos all the time.
Oh.
Yeah, see, no one wants to remember.
I literally have I have no memory of anything you just said.
I will tell all of you not on camera.
Great. Sounds good.
I know all sorts of stuff about Canadian Steve, Mike. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Vic.
I remember
Who's
that
Canadian
stuff.
Steve?
The general listening audience doesn't care about Canadian Steve.
Yeah, I mean, who's
Canadian
Canadian
Steve?
Steve? Like you brought it up. Who is this guy?
Oh boy.
I think it was
Should've
just
gone
some
there.
weird. I think it was just one of the weird dorm people.
Okay.
I made a reference to BK Tony the other day, and Vic, I think, is the only one who got it.
Oh yeah. Loved it.
But yeah, with all that gear, what happened was those guys living in the dorm. There was a living space, like a living room, and then 2 side rooms off of that were where the beds were. So I would just come in as like the drifter and just like be hanging out there because all I was doing was just working an hourly job. I think I was working at Old Navy. Yep, I was there. I was next to Bill Page. I was like number 2 dude ever like worked at the mall. Like I worked at the mall for like 7 years.
Yeah, I used to come there and visit you all the time. We eat at the food court and
Yeah. Page was there. Matt Roberts worked at Abercrombie for a while. It was great.
So to be fair, the Galleria Mall has like deep-rooted history in Buffalo hardcore in the 90s.
It does.
Yeah.
Like Joe Garlic would do that thing where he would spend the entire like over the Christmas, right? He would spend
Mall Madness. 24
he'd
hours
spend like
all day
open to
long.
close.
Yeah.
It was like a whole thing. People like come visit him like while he was there. It was like a weird thing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hey,
Yeah, we would keep all the gear in that living area, and then we would take moving dollies, and we would use moving dollies to like move our amps from that living space into that lecture hall.
Yeah.
And we'd have to do like 2-3 trips. It was just a total disaster.
Well,
actually, the way I learned how to like really scream was that I had to plug the microphone into like the audio, like in the lecture hall. So like, you got to imagine that people had like, like Marshall half stacks, right, or full, and like I had to figure out a way to scream over that because it was just like meant to be the volume of like a professor, like just doing a lecture for a class. So like we would wheel all this stuff down and we would practice, and we were loud as hell. And so there would be random people like rolling in, being like, "What's going on here?" Remember, we like almost got in a fight with like a whole fraternity there at one point.
Yeah, dude, that was like every week.
Oh yeah.
So what time of day were you guys practicing?
Every week.
What time of day were you guys practicing?
Oh, it was at night always.
What?
Okay.
I'd say probably 7 or 8 once all of us got out of our jobs and stuff.
Yeah.
And Sprig's not joking. I mean, if you've ever been in the Ellicott
Lecture
complex,
hall
it's pretty
days.
huge. Like, so we had to move our gear from one end of the complex all the way to the other. And everybody else was on like the 3rd floor. But I had to take mine from the, 7th floor down the elevator, take a couple drums at a time, back and forth,
God.
But like,
every time
we
you
were
practice?
ready for load-ins.
every time.
Yeah.
That's why they needed a 5th member in the band.
Yep.
100%.
Yo, when did Sprig officially join the band?
Well, we had,
It had to be after May of '95 because we played that Algonquin Palooza show at South Campus. That was May '95. I think that was our last show as a 4-piece. And
Okay.
I'd say
Yes.
that the first show back after that, Scott was on guitar.
Okay.
So it was during that summer.
That for me is when like I felt like we really took off, right? Like having 2 guitars and being able to work that stuff out, and just like loving Scott so much, like as a person, like it was just so awesome to like. It felt really like cohesive, and it felt like we were like really writing good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even that for me.
Yeah.
The best part of having Scott in the band, I mean, we needed a second guitar player, and he was my buddy too, which made it good. But it was actually cool because Scott could literally, I didn't have to ask him to do anything. He just always instinctively knew, like, hey, I heard there's a show coming up. I'm going to go ask if we could get on it. Hey, I think we could, someone from this record label might be interested. Hey, I could probably get us in to record here. It was like the only time and I don't mean any offense to anybody I've ever been in a band with since. The only time I had someone that was running everything, and Scott taught me so much. For as much as we let him in our band, it's like, dude, we couldn't have done anything that we did without him.
So
you guys shared that hustle. Yeah.
So talk about the first 7-inch.
Which aspects of it, like the label that it was on? You want to know about
was that Knowledge? Was that Knowledge Records?
Yeah. So Knowledge Records was started by our buddy Dave Cohen, who went to UB with us. He was another Long Island guy. You could see, like, all of us who lived in the dorms, we all have a downstate connection. But Dave decided he wanted to do a label, and we had Brown actually maybe booked the studio time at Watchmen when Doug was still at his parents' house for us to record. And Dave's like, all right, just, get that recording done. I'll send it out and we'll get it pressed. And we ripped off Despair because Despair did 7 songs for their demo, first 7-inch, where 3 unique songs on both, but one overlapped. So we took Despair's model, and I'd say we finished recording in October. It went right to Erica Records. Within 3 weeks, we got back to test presses. And then it was another 3 weeks, the end of December, when we got them. And it was actually over break. And that's the thing, we all went to UB. So we were literally here for 3 months, and then all of us would go back to, the New York City area. So we got the 7 inches, but we didn't have covers. So I really thought I was artistic at one point in my life, which I'm clearly not. None of my friends had the heart to tell me I wasn't good at it. But I took it upon myself anyway to, put together a layout. And I brought it to the, where my father worked in Manhattan in the Time Life building. And after my dad left from work, he'd let me use all the color copiers and stuff. And I print them, cut them, fold them. And I think the first show that we sold them at was at Coney Island High with Dead Guys, Snapcase, and Mouthpiece, which we almost didn't get to play because it was during a blizzard. And, Scott, did you ride down with Snapcase for that show?
I did.
It was
that
me.
was during the time.
Yeah, and I was coming from the Newburgh area, and Keith and Ben were coming from the island, and it was.
I was on a bus.
We made it. Yeah, I'm surprised we made it.
Okay, so for the next 5 minutes, everyone else but Jeffers talk about the show.
I'll start with my point because the backstory for me is pretty interesting. So this is during the days where I rode with Snapcase, and at this point it's Christmas break, so everyone else is out of Buffalo since school's on break. So perfect. I'll just ride up with Snapcase and spend the weekend with them anyways. So I bring my guitar in their band and stuff, and they're going to use their amp. Actually, I brought my head. So we get caught in this blizzard, and it goes from being late to us showing up as Union's playing. So literally, Snapcase was so late, the show had already started. So literally, we park, get out, and I hear them playing. I'm just like, this would be such a great show to play. The first person I see is Norm Moranis, who's from Texas's Reason later on. He's like, dude, your band's on stage right now. I get out, I just put my head on stage, and I just see Vic, and he just gives me the saddest look because there's just no time. So basically, my head is the only thing that made it on stage. I never got to play. They played as a 4-piece.
Do you guys remember the show when Jocelyn 14 and Jamie was late and they just played without him? I think it was an integrity show. He showed up for like the last song, and they're like, "Hey, anybody who knows any words can just come up and sing." And they're just playing with no singer. Like, that's just what popped into my head. Except it's guitar player.
Yeah,
that was.
I remember being really sad for Scott. Like that was like think about that bill, right? Like,
Yeah,
in the city, like
Yeah.
it's one of those venues I just wish I could have the ability to say that I played there. It's funny because one of my best friends, he plays This Day Forward, and we joke because he was on stage at CBGB's.
Look at that face. Oh man!
So This Day Forward had played at CBGB's with Brothers Keeper. Mike Ski got stabbed at CBGB's as This Day Forward is about to play. So my best friend was on stage at CBGB's but never got to play, and that's kind of how I felt about Coney Island High.
Wow.
Wild.
Look at the jerseys.
So we're still talking about that show, or we're gonna go to something else? What do you think?
We can go on to something else unless anybody else we haven't heard Ben talk much, but we can move on to something else.
I actually have a pretty bad.
You have a
Maybe.
pretty.
he's a
Maybe you got
bad
a bad
connection.
connection.
Yeah, he's texting me.
Okay. So so that show is over. What was like the next, like, okay, the 7-inch comes out. How do you guys get on
I'm
Ferret?
enjoying.
Like, how does Ferret happen?
All right. So actually, Scott had booked time at Salad Days in Boston with Brian McTurnan, and we went out there in April. I think it was like the 25th, 26th, 27th, and with the intention of us recording all the new songs we written since Scott had joined the band. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the pictures. I see Jordan Buckley right there, his green jacket.
Jordan.
And then when we got to
What was that show?
Buffalo,
Discovery.
Scott had made all these like promotional cassettes, and sent them out to people. Right, Scott? Do you want to take it from there?
Yeah. So we did what every band does, just made a whole shitload of demos to shoot out to labels and just say, hey, Union, Buffalo Hardcore. And I remember shooting it to a bunch of labels, including Josh over at Trustkill. And Josh is actually the one that handed it along to Carl over at Ferret, basically saying, hey, I got my hands full right now, but this might be something that you're looking to put out. This may be something up your alley. So Carl checked it out, liked it, shot me a letter just saying, hey, Josh handed along the demo. I think it's great. I'm going to be releasing the Converge record on CD within the next 3 to 4 months. If you can hold out, I'd love to put out your next record. And talked it over with the guys. And obviously we were super excited. At that point, Ferret was just an up and coming label. And no one else was interested. I think that was actually the only one who was legitimately interested. So we're like, yeah, that would be great. And Carl was a cool dude. And that was pretty much it.
Yeah, and coincidentally, those tapes that Scott had sent out, one of them resurfaced, and Dave Bushmeyer from Spread the Disease and the China White up in Ontario, he had a copy of it. He sent it to me in the mail probably a year and a half ago. I was like, holy shit, it was awesome. So Scott, you must have gave one to Bushmeyer when you're up in Southern Ontario, but it made its way back to me. It's pretty cool,
Yeah.
to see how far and how long these tapes that you made can last.
Titus. Nice.
Oh,
That's good, Titus.
So let's talk about big shows that Union played.
Can I mention one more thing about that recording one?
Yeah.
So I don't even know if the other guys in the band know about this. Oh, Keith, you getting some action there?
That was probably Titus.
Yeah,
Probably.
So we basically played through merch money to cover that recording. So it's crazy to think in hindsight that this was the beginning days of Salad Days, and Brian was just getting up and coming, and we recorded that session for $150. So Brian only asked for $150 a day. So it was an 8-hour session, and I remember doing the first session and then taking a break for lunch. And then we went out to eat, came back to finish, and then I did my guitars. And this was my first time recording. And good thing that Vic was great because, I was a little nervous. And, truth be told, it took me longer than I expected to get the guitar parts done. But we got it all done. And about 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks later, I get a call from Brian saying, "Hey, I went to cash your check." And it bounced. So once again, at this point, I'm just like a kid working at Old Navy, and all I care about is hardcore and like skateboarding and hanging out with my friends.
Rooster.
And long story short, I had to resend a check and cover it up. But Brian, being the nicest guy, he was pissed. And I still to this day feel so horrible. And I get teased if I ever see him. So that's the best thing in the recording.
Why did you guys pick Salad Days? Why'd you go all the way out there?
That 108 recording had come out right before we went there?
No,
I love that record.
I don't think that had been done yet or even released. But that being said, the fact is only $150, and for what had been done there, I mean, he had done the Converge stuff, some other stuff, his own band stuff, and
Cast Iron Hike, he did their stuff.
Exactly.
Didn't
he? Yeah. So we had played some shows with Cast Iron Hike, kind of became like a buddy band with them. And the $150 couldn't go wrong. And I love Brian and thought that having Brian on it would help, steer us in the right direction, which it really did.
Yeah, Brian's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
I got to say, I actually love the drum sound that I got on that recording. I still think it's one of the best drum sounds I ever got in the studio, considering I had like the worst drum kit ever. And I had to learn that changing heads was something that you should do all the time then.
Yeah.
So the magic that he got out of, just like a Mickey Mouse drum set, and it still sounds good 25 years later is awesome.
Yeah,
He
was great.
He had a really legitimate recording setup. I mean, it was our first time, all of us being in a real studio where, we multi-tracked and we had isolation. I remember being like really excited to bang that one out. And I remember, Scott, you had borrowed Dressler's Artisan. Remember that?
Yep. Yeah, we tried to play that, but it was just way too bassy. It was like so thick. It's the heaviest guitar I've ever held in my entire life.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
It's like, this thing's beefy. It's going to sound super thick, but it was just like
your SG was perfect, though, man. That SG you had was perfect. And I remember we were listening to that Rage Against the Machine record, Evil Empire. That was kind of that was sort of like what we were going for, I think. Like we were really trying to get our bass and drums to be.
That Evil Empire came out like later than that, didn't it?
No, that was what we were. I remember we were listening to that record, and that's what we wanted our drums to sound like. I remember that because I remember being like, they sounded really heavy. I remember being like, these drums sound fucking huge. And
you guys want? I'll take your word, guitar player wise. You guys wanted the drums to sound like that. I would never take a Brad Wilk drum sound. I only listened to Biohazard at that point, dude. That was like I want to sound like Danny Schuler, and that's it. How many times at shows we'd get to a point in the song and Brown would be like, "Yo, Mike, pick it up." Every time.
Every time.
Interesting fact about
fun fact, and guys, you might remember this. When we were writing those songs to record it at Brian's, I broke my double bass drum pedal, and because we were college kids and we were broke, I didn't have money to buy a new one, so we recorded all those songs with single bass drum. And then when we went back to Watchmen later on to record the two other songs, I had like a new double bass drum pedal by then. So, the last two songs we recorded Watchmen are like double bass crazy, right? And I remember Carl said to you, Scott, like, dude, did you guys get a different drummer? And like, no, it's the same guy. He could afford his equipment now, but only on the last 2 songs.
Mike Jeffers loves a double bass.
You know, it's funny that you say that because I've heard more than one person say, does he know how to hit anything else on the drums besides the double bass?
Last fun fact I'll drop, which pulls into gear talk, was that I was always so stoked that that Marshall amp that I had made its way around the scene before it got to me, and then made some rounds afterwards. So that head was sold to John Salemi from Lou from Sick of It All, and that was the head that was played on Blood, Sweat, and No Tears.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Marshall JCM 800 100-watt head to Salemi for $200.
What?
Salemi sold it to Joe Luca in copper for $300. Joe Luca sold it to me $400. And I remember Salemi saying, "Don't buy it for $400. I only sold it to him for $3." I was like, "You bought it for $2, and I know what it's worth." So,
What did you sell it for?
So I had that throughout Union and had that at the beginning of Buried Alive,
Yeah.
and sold that for money to buy my Mesa Boogie dual rectifier, and I sold that to Jordan Buckley from Every Time I Die. So Jordan played that for the first few years of Every Time I Die, and still has it.
Don't you wish you still had it though?
I do. I did rebuy 50-watt version, so I do have a JCM 800 50-watt, which is actually preferred, but it doesn't have the history to say Sick of It All. It's snapped.
Yeah.
Wait, though, but Vic, your crate head we bought from Salemi.
That's the
That's
best
right.
part.
We paid like
I bought
180
my head from John Salemi for $150.
No, it was 185, and me and Pete
Oh.
and you had to come up with extra money because it was 185, like a really weird number.
Yeah.
And you know, he drilled holes in it so you could run the cables through, you know, a special way. You know,
Well, that's
but
why it
when
was 185 instead of like 150.
Yeah.
It was custom.
$5 whole
Custom.
charge. It's customized.
And that head came from Joe Smith, the original guitar player of Snapcase.
Wow.
Damn.
History.
Creator of the high-pitched guitar tones.
Yeah. So Galvin has a head that was Eddie Malone's that he used on the Fuel the Fire tape
Oh.
that he like just plugs into for good luck every now and then.
Oh, really?
There you go.
That is crazy.
Gear was so interesting back then. You know, it's like you had to go to a shop. I remember what was the place on Hurdle? Top Shelf.
Top shelf music.
That's where I got that Charvel, which was a crazy weird guitar.
It belonged to Oz Fox from Striper.
Really?
No, it didn't.
Yeah, dude. You guys know how much I love Striper. None of the 9 of you have a Striper autographed Bible, autographed specifically. I do.
I think my cousin does actually. I'm going to ask him after this, but he might actually.
Yeah, but does it say to my brother Mike? From
Probably not, because his name is Matt.
Probably not.
For the 5 deep, like Buffalo hardcore fans listening to this podcast, if you had Mike Jeffers reference Striper on your bingo board, congratulations.
You get a free burrito.
Hold on, there's a few others. I will name them when they come up. Listen, real quick though, Mark was talking about big shows. I just wanted, like, for me, there's 3. There's with Sick of It All at Showplace, which for me was like, that was just amazing. There were like, I don't know, 400 kids or something there. It was amazing.
Was definitely oversold.
It was that show was just incredible. Like, that just felt amazing. I'm glad there's video of that on YouTube. Like, that's great. There's the Hardcore Formal, which we have to talk about at some point. And then there's the Buffalo Apocalypse Takeover, or whatever that was. It was like at Mercury.
Yeah.
Like, those, for me, like, those are like the 3 shows. Like, I love the Coney Island High show, but like bittersweet because of Scott not playing. Like, that was tough. But like, for me, those were like the 3 shows that felt so like authentically Buffalo and the scene that was happening at that time. Like, it was just great. You know, like that, the Hardcore Formal, the way they came together, were like, It was just like kind of like a half joke. And then like it was like, oh, Jesse was like, yeah, my parents would let us play in the basement. And then we were all like, people were like, yeah, I didn't go to my prom. I didn't go to any formals. We were like, let's get dressed up and like play in a sweaty basement. That show was great.
That was cool.
Do you remember Murphy picked us up in his like 68 Volkswagen bus and brought all of our equipment there, and it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Murphy.
That was Hourglass's last show, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
It was.
I really like that band.
Well, this is a
Hourglass or
perfect
Hourglass is
segue. I was going to say that's a perfect segue because we liked Hourglass and, became friends with them. But right around the time that I joined, there was rumors that the bands didn't like each other. So it was funny as adults to look back to think of this little beef that was happening. And I remember just being at one of the shows at Showplace outside, and then just all talked and everything was cool. At that point, became super close friends with Matt and Joel Sanatetsky at that point, and Matt Fire, who was their close friend, and did Daybreak with them. I'm not sure if he was still in the band at that point, but yeah, love Hourglass, love those dudes. But it was just funny to think that there was beef, back then. Funny to look back at.
People would invent shit about how you'd have beef with somebody. It's like, where did this come from?
Well, look, I obviously I've been in Buffalo since I got here in '93, right? And there are definitely people who didn't like us, and I completely understand why. We're here for a couple of months, then we're gone. We're back for a couple of months, then we're gone. We really were very, very. We had healthy egos, to say the least. Plus, I had my chain and everything too, which clearly offends people here.
Some of us had healthy egos, Mike. Some of us did.
Ben, I know some of your ex-girlfriends. I've heard about your healthy ego.
You're very funny, man.
I'm Irish, so I can't talk about that. So,
and there goes any chance of a union reunion.
No, I mean, it's really. The problem is too. A lot of times we were older than some of the other bands, and if we didn't grow up here, you didn't go to. I think Sprig made more people realize we weren't douchebags because he lived here and he was hanging out with people that he knew. He's like, "Yo, these guys are okay. They're not bad."
I was gonna say the same thing. Sprig joining the band, all of a sudden people are like, "Oh, they're okay now," because Sprig's in the band.
Yeah.
Seriously.
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely helped bridge that gap, if you will, because regardless, having all those guys from out of town, when you think about it in hindsight, it's absolutely insane. Hey, there's a band from Buffalo, but no one's from Buffalo. All these guys just go to school in Buffalo and then they go away.
Yeah.
Growing up in the Buffalo hardcore scene, having seen so many bands come and go and stuff like that, I can totally see how people would, look at that band differently.
Yeah.
And, I may bridge that gap a little bit, but, it's just really playing more shows, just getting more out there. And, really it was just that networking and talking with other bands. And then you became buddy bands with the local bands. And then everyone was just that same group. So it was awesome.
Probably doesn't help that at the first show, one of the first shows I ever went to in Buffalo, Vogel and I almost got into a fist fight.
Church of the Nativity.
What's the story behind that?
Yeah, what do tell?
Mike would probably have exactly the right memory. My memory of it was Against All Hope played and a couple other bands played. Somebody played New Direction, right? Which is come on, that's my favorite Gorilla Biscuit song. So I jumped in, was dancing or whatever, and Scott and I must have bumped into each other, and we sort of whatever. And Mike came in and was just no, no, whatever. And then I don't know, that was it. But Vogel and I became when we toured with those guys, I still every once in a while will message Vogel we're cool, but it's just weird when you show up at a place and you love a scene or you love a music and you go to these shows and you don't know anybody or one or two people and you don't know who's who or what's going on. You're just like, fuck, I love that song. I'm gonna go dance or whatever, and somebody bumps into you, and then it's like a thing. So it's like it's weird being from the outside in, even though you're in the same scene. And so I totally get like what Scott was saying, where like we're not from there, we're sort of there, but we're not there. When we're not there, we're playing shows other places. And so I get that it's like that it's weird, but I think as individuals, it's like people just decided they had some idea, but as you, like people would get to know us, it would be like, oh, like those guys are fine.
Yeah, but I Chris, we've talked about this before. How like Jeremy Mazguy put it best. He said people in Buffalo always viewed Union as tourists. Like you guys are just you come here for you do your 4 years and then you get out. You know, they didn't expect anyone to stay around.
Like, we stayed
necessarily,
but it also didn't help that, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, that like you guys were like, we're New York hardcore, we're not Buffalo hardcore in the very beginning. Because I know, like, I personally was like, well, fuck you guys.
I never said that.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that I was like fuck Union necessarily, but I didn't start to, I guess, in my limited scope, accept Union till Keith started working at Cowpoke, and I got to know him through that.
That's on Mike and I, right? Like that's on Mike and I, because like Mike, like I grew up like my entry point in the hardcore scene was like bands like Neglect and VOD, and like they were like Long Island and New York hardcore bands, Cro-Mags and shit. Like those are the bands I was going to see when I was growing up on Long Island. And Mike's like same deal. Like Mike, like we were in that kind of bubble. Like I never heard of Snapcase until I moved to Buffalo. Like I literally never heard of Snapcase, Zero Tolerance, like Fade Away, like any of those bands. Now I love all those bands. Like once I got introduced to those bands, I love those bands, but that's not where I came from, right? So like it's weird. You don't identify with a scene, even though it's the same music and it's the same general thing. But like that's one thing when you start playing other places, or if you go to shows in other places, like, every place has its vibe. Every place has its hierarchy. Every place has like the people you got to kiss the ring. Like it's like every place has that shit.
Plus, I never thought I'd be here after I finished college. I just figured I'd come here, go to school, and then leave.
But then you saw the huge void of drummers and was like, you know what? I found my home.
Yeah.
They need me.
I could play in every band forever.
I was going to move to Albany in like 2000 because I was going to take a job with the State Board of Education. And I actually went out and like looked at apartments and stuff like that. And I believe it or not, it was like Dave Steele and Steve Maynard, Nate Black from Abnegation, who like talked me out of, taking the job and staying here. And they're like, dude, just keep Dead to the World going. We'll drive from Erie like every weekend to keep doing the band. I'm like, oh, sure. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Great decision.
Yeah. It's just funny that Dave Steele is to blame for you being in Buffalo.
Dave Steele's the greatest guy ever. All those Abnegation guys, I'm still tight with every one of them, but man, they could talk to,
is he in Philly now?
Who, Steele? He's in California.
Yeah, he's in California. I lived with him when he was in Philly for a little bit.
Okay.
And yeah, you don't want to get on his bad side because he takes pranks to a whole nother level that I wasn't ready for.
Oh yeah.
That's for another time.
Fair enough.
We're gonna put a pin in that. We're gonna revisit that.
Yeah. Hey, last thing I'll say about the old. It's funny you mentioned that Ring, because that reminded me. Chris Ring, who's ultimately one of my best friends in the entire world, we became friends around this time as well. And I was so excited after we recorded to play like the new songs for people. And his response was, I like the old stuff better before you do it.
I'm actually curious, like Vic, what was one of your favorite shows when you were in the band? Like I like hearing this stuff, because I don't think we've ever talked about it.
I was thinking my favorite. I remember we played a show with Brothers Keeper and Despair, and I want to say it was Rhode Island, and you fell asleep and we couldn't find you.
Oh, I didn't fall asleep. I was hammered and passed out and inside.
Oh, the show was awesome. I mean, I remember like that was a really good night. I think Tape Breed played too.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, we were kind of doing like a tour with those guys, and I just remember like that was when me and Scott, especially, like we were just gelling really well. Like I felt like we were playing everything really in good sync. And Benny was an incredible musician too, by the way. I don't know if it's been said, but fantastic musician. And
Thanks,
playing
man.
bass in a hardcore band, he didn't really get to show that off. But I always felt really confident with Benny and like with you, Mike. So that tour was really fun. But that show, I just remember feeling really good about what we were doing. And then, of course, trying to find Mike later because he was passed out somewhere.
Where were you?
All right, so where we played the show, downstairs was the club, where the hardcore show was, and upstairs was like a rave.
It was
And,
loud.
We got done playing, and I was like a single dude. I'm like, I want to go look for girls. So I went upstairs, and hey, I just kept drinking and talking to girls. Next
You
thing
were
I know,
tired too.
It was like 4 a.m, and I'm like sleeping on a couch, and the whole club is like the lights are off, nobody's there.
We couldn't find you, dude.
I'm like, what the hell is going on? I hear
We
like
were
knocking on
scared.
the door.
Northampton, Massachusetts.
That's where it was. Pearl
All
Street.
the
Pearl
guys had
Street.
been looking for me for a couple of hours. I remember EMS was like, Mike, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
He was a little peeved. But I don't know. Was that the show where Ski was spinning around in circles and he got dizzy?
Dr. Ted, you wrong.
He's like, where the fuck am I?
Like, whoa, where am I?
That's it. That show.
Benny, I remember you let your ass off when that happened, dude. We were dying. That was so fun, man.
I mean, I remember when we Middletown, New Jersey. The show was great, but Brown
Mike
took
tried to
one of
beat
the-
me up.
You took one of the Continuum posters and made an addendum to what Mike was holding in his hand, and he got. I don't know if you remember that.
Legit, no memory of this, but I'm sure it happened.
Oh, is that?
Listen, there was the one where Ben and I were hanging out, drinking in the van, and there was a riot. That was Hatebreed, Candiria, Earth Crisis, Marauder, us, and someone else in Bristol, Connecticut, like where Hatebreed's from.
Actually, I was in the van with you too. Rick Healy was standing right outside the van.
That's right. Oh my
we were
God.
drinking Crazy Horse, and the gun went off.
The gun went off.
And
there was a gunshot right outside of our van.
It wasn't the CT Bike Exchange, but it was a place that had like the indoor playground. I actually have the flyer on my phone, so I can't pull it up because I'm on the phone doing this thing now. But that show was awesome.
That show was
Ben,
wild.
I want to see what Ben thought. Which show was the best?
I actually do remember that one when the gunshot went off. That's one thing I do remember. As far as I think probably my favorite show, probably not one of the best ones that we played, was when we played with VOD, because at that time they were like my favorite band in the world,
Me too.
And we played with them. And then they came back to the dorms and we partied with them. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, how did this happen? You know what I mean? So like for me, that was like a good moment in time, And I mean, I loved hanging out with you guys and all the shows. It was just, for me, it was like I really enjoyed playing with you guys. And, there were some highs and some lows when it comes to like how we played and stuff. But all in all, it's like just really good memories, I wouldn't trade it for anything, really.
And the thing is, like, when we started playing, I used to write down every show we played and who we played with. And I probably did it from 94 till maybe the end of 96. And
When you started,
I was talking, like, we played at Middlesex Community College when we were out with Cast Iron Hike. And Converge played the show too, but I didn't realize Chokehold had played too. And me and Logan were talking about that last week. Like, man, I didn't even realize. He's like, I didn't even realize it either. Like there were so many shows we played that I remember some of the people, but I didn't remember every single one. Keith and Vic, when we played as a 3-piece that one time in Middletown, New York. We played.
There's video of that. There's video of that.
We played with Marauder, Hatebreed, like End of One, which is like Jesse from All Out Wars band, and like Drowning Room. But that's where we got all those sweet picks for the Indignation tape. You know, probably should have named it something different because I still can't say the word correctly to this day.
Yeah, why was it called indignation? Where'd that come from?
I actually don't think that's even a word, to tell you the truth.
If someone's indignant, it's definitely comes from. But
Oh, okay. Thanks,
when
man.
I first made the tape, I spelled it.
I think he was trying to say Indigo Girl Nation, right?
Well, that's what it said at first, but I got sued, so I had to change it to indignant.
Closer I am to find.
You know.
Listen, I think we should just field questions from the NCS folks now.
There you go.
I thought this was
we're officially going off the rails. Like, I don't care. You can. This is like a Reddit AMA. Like, ask us anything.
Hold on a second here. Let's get back on the rails here. So, Vic, why did you leave the band?
Why did I leave the band?
Yeah.
We had a little falling out, and it was kind of like a weird thing that happened. I don't even remember the details of it, to be honest. I just remember I wasn't feeling it anymore. Scott and I had a little fight about something, and we just were being kind of young and stupid. And I know like Nucci was around a lot, so like it felt like he was just kind of gonna be in the band at some point. Or him and I were doing a band too. He was in a band with me called Gray in Between, which I can't remember the history. Like it's like a little fuzzy. Yeah, it was after.
It was
and
after.
there was Voice Killer.
Yeah, we
So,
did a
like,
couple
we had-
bands together.
Yeah, and I know like around that time I felt like I'd kind of run my course. Like I was ready to just focus a little more on other things musically. I was getting a little bored of just playing like straight up hardcore. I wanted to sing and play guitar more. So these selfish reasons, whatever. But yeah, like looking back on it, I mean, I would have been nice to have ended it on better terms with me, but that's kind of what's nice about this. I feel like we can kind of come back and sort of and me and Scott reconnecting in California was great because it felt like we picked up where we left off when we were tight. Like, you know, it felt like we were kind of back where we should have been, you know, kind of more grown up and realistic. And now we're both dads. So it's like, we're totally grown up, right? So,
Yeah.
but, you know, it's amazing to think. But yeah, like at the time it was just like silly shit that really could have just been like, you know, fixed if we were grown up enough. Both of us were kind of immature. I know I was very immature, and you know, looking back on it, I mean, it's hard to even look back at yourself when you're in your 20s and be like, "What did I do?" You know, like, I mean, we're all, you know, we all know that, you know, we're all grown up people now. But so yeah, that was around the time when I quit, and then they just picked it up with Nucci. So.
Well, I had been going to every practice because I was living in the dorms at UB.
Oh yeah, you were there,
and you would all practice there, and I would walk down with my friends, and I was already a fan of the band to begin with, so I would walk down, and all of a sudden my favorite band is playing in the dorms, so I'd go in and just sit down and just listen. So from there, you know, it just kind of happened organically. But
yeah, like you and I were hanging out before that. I mean, me and Rob became good friends like that year. And
I remember you saying to me at one point, Vic, after I joined the band, because I felt a little weird because like I was essentially taking your spot, and you said to me, and you're like, if it's going to be anybody, I'm glad it's you. And you like gave me that high five like this. And I felt good.
Yeah, it was totally awesome.
Yeah, Rob, you were my wingman. That's what helped get you in the band.
Yes. Yes. And that helped get you married too.
That's right. I couldn't bring Titus out to bars with me. It wasn't working, so I'd bring Bob with me all the time.
Titus,
right?
Titus
Hey,
in a
Bob.
bar.
Yeah. Bob, do you remember Goose Flesh?
Yeah, you got me really drunk in this bar, and I was trying to read what this poster said for an hour and a half.
Well, yeah, you were hanging out with me all the time. You'd show up in my apartment with not Phil, Alan.
The guys from No Way Out.
And this is when I was living with Keith's wife over on Elmwood when we lived there.
Mark was bringing up No Way Out a couple podcasts ago. That made me laugh.
What time frame was No Way Out? I forgot.
That was before Bob was in Union.
Before he joined Union. And when was Voice Killer?
After Union broke up.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny to hear Vic talk now, to hear that he thought we might be messing around with Rob, and then we end up parting ways. And then we get Rob in the band. It's like that relationship where a girl thinks that you're trying to bang her best friend. You break up.
And then you do.
Slide right in.
but on a serious note, I mean, I said this once before, but I'll say it to everyone. Once again, this was my first band that I ever played in. So for me, I have a affection of Union looking back on it, because with everything in life, you get better when you're doing it with people who already are good at something. So for me to come in with no experience, this being my first band, I learned so much from Vic on songwriting, guitar playing as a whole, especially with Ben as well. I remember having some song ideas and presenting them, and some of the chord progressions, they were just like 2 major key. And, to say, hey, let's go ahead and break this up. Let's do it diminished here. So that was like really educational to myself as well. It helped me in my path as a guitar player to just become better and better as I continued to play with better musicians. Even in bands that I had done in the future, it was every time just one step up, trying to be better, comfortable with where I'm at now. But in hindsight, I wasn't that great of a guitar player. So you guys were bringing me on, but I just continued to practice, and it was just so worthwhile.
Yeah, but you contributed on so many levels, though. It's not like your guitar playing. To be in a band, anybody I played in bands with people who are the best guitar players, and they can't write a song, or I can't stand hanging out with them. You were like the total package. I could go skating with you. I could, talk about like Sam I Am all the time. You play in the band. You can, hey Scott, like, can you help take care of this problem? Yeah. Like, don't sell yourself short and just look at the guitar playing. Like, all of us obviously have gotten better over the years. Like, I still feel guilty sometimes though, because we had Ben play bass, because he is a great guitar player. I remember
I never knew how to play the bass. I wanted to talk about that. It's like, you guys are like, Ben's gonna play the bass. I'm like, I don't know how to play the bass, guys. And you're like, that's okay. It was like that. It's not a prerequisite to know how to play the bass to play bass in Union. Like, it's like, all right. After like a year or two, I kind of figured it out, and then the band broke up. But
were you a guitar player beforehand?
Yeah,
I was the guitar player. Yeah.
Yeah. In Chains of My Brains, he played second guitar.
Yeah, I played rhythm on that one.
But Ben, you did play guitar on one of the records, though. You remember that?
There we go.
Yeah.
Played the
that solo, the Bad Religion sounding solo.
And then I had to learn it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You did. We got to find it.
On which one?
In Endless Pursuit, I think I want to say at the end of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's get to that.
Right.
Also, wait, are you going to call this episode Union Talks About Their Feelings?
Yeah, sure. Union intervention.
I mean, the first song I ever wrote was "Red with Revenge," And when I look back on that, because prior to this meeting, I was like, okay, I should probably listen to those old songs. I haven't listened to it in so long. And fun fact, after the CD came out, I gave one to my dad, super stoked. Years later, go to visit my dad, still in the shrink wrap. He's never opened it. You think he'd at least open it and look at the pictures or something? Never even opened.
That's probably worth like $8.
Totally.
My sister-in-law sold all the CDs and 7-inches I ever did that I gave to my older brother. She sold them at a yard sale like a couple of years ago.
Wow.
She's like, your brother doesn't listen to them. I'm like, he wasn't supposed to. He was just supposed to have them.
So yeah, when I went back and re-listened to those songs, I mean, truth be told, it's slightly hard to listen to some of those songs. I mean, in a respectable way, like I think that we all became better musicians later on, and I think some of us, kind of hard. If we were to play a show again, like we definitely wouldn't play this song. We definitely wouldn't play this song. But we would play this one. It was interesting to look back, like my first, riffs that I ever came up with, and Vic helping me mold some of those, and vice versa for me to have input on stuff, keep putting stuff in. So that was a great time for me to collaborate. But oh my gosh, if I never heard the song "Bleed" again, I would be.
Well, each release was exponentially better than the one before it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, like it definitely was. Like there was definitely a progression and growth there that was noticeable from a release to release. I don't know if anybody else wants to comment on that.
We hit something on that last 7-inch.
Yeah.
There was two
My
songs.
introduction to the band was the last 7-inch, and then I tried to go backwards, and it was like,
I remember, I really liked the last
And there it
7-inch, and hated the shirt.
not a
that you
slight.
guys
I just
made for
agree
that
that the last
7-inch.
record's the best.
I was like bummed because I was like, oh, I actually want to wear.
I
a
used to
Union
love
shirt
playing
now. It's
that
got a
that
weird doll on
song.
it.
The first song on the 7-inch, the one that because I wrote that one that because that was when we listened to that 108 record was kind of like big, that was a big influence, and the second song was the one where Scott and I kind of
Cut the strings.
Dr. Feelgood kind of riff, I remember those two songs. Those two songs I felt like were a big progression for us, and then Mike, you just recently sent us a whole bunch of stuff that we were working on.
We were writing.
And like Nucci was on it, and I'm on it, and it's like, and some of that stuff's really cool. It was fascinating. I was like, wow, we were evolving. Like,
I think we all got better as musicians as the band went on, but I don't think that we necessarily. I think we stopped sounding like where we were from and started sounding more like where we were living by the time the band broke up.
What we were listening to.
Yeah.
Like, remember, I remember, Tool, Anima came out when we were, and I remember, especially Sprig and I, we used to, geek out on that fucking record. We were like, what is happening in this record? And we were just I think we always had, varied, musical tastes, and brought that to the table. And, it did feel like in, sort of an evolution, that 7-inch, where, it was rock. It was hard, but it was it had a pace to it, and it was quick, get in, get out. That whole those 4 songs are what under 10 minutes or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely under 10.
Brown, you're forgetting about the most important part of that 7-inch, the megaphone effect.
The megaphone effect. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what happens. That's what happens when you let Ben and I go record vocals with nobody else there. Yeah, no, that's exactly what happens. And we listen to nothing but Jizza Liquid Swords on the drive to the studio. And we ate Mighty Taco for 3 meals that day, and we just recorded vocals, just Ben and I.
Don't blame Mighty Taco. Don't blame Mighty Taco.
I would never blame Mighty Taco. Anyways, Chris was saying something before. What were you saying about that last release? I missed that.
Oh, I was just saying that, I remember really liking that last release and being like, oh, man, I would actually wear a Union shirt now. And the only shirt you guys had was the one with the freaking doll on it. And I was like, I can't wear that. I can't do it.
What do you got a problem with dolls about?
Which
it's just where I was at that time.
Yeah.
Fun fact on that artwork, I got a comic book when we were on tour with Despair.
In Connecticut.
That's right.
Yeah, so we were on tour. I got this comic book. It's this art's is amazing. Literally just stole the pictures directly from the comic book.
Straight up.
I think that shortly after that second Korn record came out with the doll on it, and I was just like, I can't do this.
Mike Jeffers. I just said this to you yesterday.
Oh wow.
You did, but like I said, it was stolen artwork. From that comic book. It was a voodoo doll. Scott picked it up in Connecticut. We also picked up a framed Guns N' Roses poster with a gold frame that's still down in my practice space, in memory of you guys, because we all loved Mr. Brownstone. So,
Another fun fact about that 7-inch art. So the actual covers were printed for the size that would be a slip sleeve, and it was printed to just be a single fold inside a plastic sleeve. Mm-hmm. So therefore, Barrett had to cut every single cover by a 1/4 inch so that it would fit into a plastic bag. And that's why it also sticks out over the top of the plastic bag by 1/4 inch.
I've never seen a copy of that record where the top of the cover isn't hammered.
Yeah, it's always bent.
Poor Carl, man.
Yeah. Well, it's funny.
He's fine.
He's okay.
Designed that one, and I remember doing an all-nighter with Dente when we designed the CD and being super stoked. And he had just designed the Despair and Slugfest releases on Initial.
Yeah, Pattern Life, right?
So
he did awesome work, man.
As we bleed.
Oh, as we believe, that's right.
So as we're doing the tray insert, he's figuring out the picture and centering it. And I'm like, well, you have to account for the bar on the side. And he just stops blank. He's just like, oh shit, I totally forgot to do that on the Despair record. So the Despair record had been finalized, sent to printers at that point. So now when you look at an actual CD, if you're looking at an As We Bleed CD, when you pick up the photo or the CD,
I always thought that was
photo, it's off center because he didn't think about that.
I remember that. I don't know why.
Yeah.
All right, NCS folks, what other questions you got? I just want to answer questions.
All right, well, Jeffers already made you guys talk about what your favorite shows were. That's usually one of ours. Individually, who is your favorite band to play and or tour with?
Ooh, let's start with Ben.
VOD, right?
No, I mean, I think that tour we did with Despair, like, it was just like hanging out with Dente and Fligger and those guys.
Yeah.
That was it for me, man. That's so much fun.
How far did that tour go?
I don't remember really. I mean, I know we stayed in Rhode Island one night, right?
So we were
that
in
weird-
Chicago, in Indianapolis,
Yeah.
Midwest, yeah.
New York.
We almost died in Chicago.
I remember Indianapolis. It was so cold. It was like negative something degrees, and we were all like holed up in that brown van with the boarded up windows. And I was like, "What are we doing?" You know?
What are we doing?
What are we doing? I was having.
I remember we had no food, and like some girl like at that Krishna temple we played at in Chicago gave us like a box of apples, and that's what we ate for like days. Like days. Like we were freezing to death just eating apples. Like
It was a lot of fun though.
I would also amen. Like I love the dudes in Despair so much. Like they were like, I feel like they were just some of my favorite people overall. And then there were people from other places. Like I remember like the guys from Coalesce were like super nice. Like I remember like being like getting along really great with them. The guys from Converge, like sort of, but we didn't like hang out with them as much. And then like Cast Iron Hike, 454 Big Block.
Yeah, Big Block for sure.
Those guys were so great to hang out with.
Yeah, I was gonna say Cast Iron Hike were I stayed good friends with those guys after Union. Like I kept in touch. I'm still friends with Jacob and Chris. And honestly, like the whole, I think when what you guys were saying about Despair, because we did some shows with them, and I remember we did like, didn't we do some shows with I want to say like Guilt. We played with Guilt a couple times.
Yeah.
And they were really nice. I remember being like really impressed by how they were the nicest, like they were just down to earth. Like Duncan was a really nice guy. I remember being a little intimidated by him because he's like kind of a bigger deal guy. And he was really friendly. So yeah, that would be Guilt would be like one of my favorites for sure.
That was fun because that was also when Matt Weeder was playing guitar for a while.
Oh yeah, and we knew Matt.
Who I went to high school with.
Yeah, Mike was good friends with Matt.
Yeah.
Although he said he told me recently he always thought I was a Guido.
You are a Guido.
Yeah, I mean, come on. What do you mean?
I mean,
like, come on.
Yeah.
You're kind of the great Gindaloon, remember? Great Gindaloon.
Did you expect us to push back on that?
I guess not.
You know, we've had this
You said the
conversation
hair.
many times. Like, many times. So, like, come on.
There's a chain around your neck right now. Come on.
There you go.
I had pictures of you with slick back hair in like a tank top with a chain.
Yeah, like, come on.
They're on the internet. Like you can find them. Like people could Google it.
Yeah.
That's hot.
So, go ahead, Scott. Like I'm moderating now. Go ahead, Scott.
And now,
I was just going to follow up on the touring stuff and echo exactly what I think most of us would say is that, you know, we really owed a lot to Despair for taking us out, and, you know, Scott and Matt for just really sticking their necks out for us. I can never say enough about all they did for us as a band. So that was really great.
Yeah.
That tour that we did with them, I just realized that with Joe Orlando being our roadie on that tour, it was fun because that at the same time was when Matt Roberts was playing in his stint in Despair. So
That
it's
is true.
I never realized that all 5 of the guys who ended up doing, Buried Alive later on were all on that tour. But really, it's just having Joe Orlando with us, like not knowing what he was getting himself into in that death band and going out and just
Joey-O, man. I love Joey-O. Such a cool dude.
So this is like the segue to say that after Vic left, there was a short period where Ben was going to play guitar, and we had Joe Orlando playing bass.
That's right.
Yeah, I wasn't good enough to do Vic's leads and stuff, man.
No, Joe didn't want to do it.
Joe was out.
You would have been good enough.
Yeah, I think it was that hourglass Union beef. He just couldn't get over it.
Fun fact: Joe Orlando
manufactured beef.
Joe Orlando and I were in a band called The Schematics with Nico Georgiatos and Glenn Lasky.
Really?
There's some Buffalo hardcore heritage that's not hardcore at all. But we were kind of.
When was that?
I mean, not to be a dick, but some would debate the hardcore heritage of a couple of those people you named. But I'm the dick.
Nico?
I'm not naming any
Not
names.
to be a dick, but I'm going to be a dick real quick.
It's been a long time, and I've been told I don't talk enough shit, so I'm just sprinkling a little powder on you.
I know. I kind of miss the shit talking, Chris.
I'm trying to be like
a grown ass man.
A grown ass man, and I'm also trying to make the podcast accessible to people instead of me ruining it for everyone. So I tone it down, but I go onto other people's podcasts and talk that shit.
Well, Joe Orlando's an incredible musician. Joe Orlando's a really great musician.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like, I love him, and I don't know what he's doing these days, but he's a fantastic musician.
Yeah,
he's got
a. Came together and Buried Alive. Like I love that Buried Alive shit so much.
Hey, who's that guy?
Fun fact: a lot of people don't know this.
Look at that.
Nico was supposed to start Despair.
I never seen these pictures. Oh my god!
Really?
Wait, what, Scott?
Nico was originally going to be a guitar player in Despair when it was just like a talking thing, when they were talking about starting a band with Vogel. Like they were talking about having Nico was going to be on guitar. So the band in Despair was the band that initially was brought up in conversation with Nico.
And what happened with that?
It just never came to fruition. I think this was right around the time the Cinder Block stuff was happening. So it was just kind of that time period. So I don't know if it was just Nico getting out of the hardcore scene itself, but yeah, it just never came to fruition.
Just gonna say hashtag Cinderblock 2021.
Hashtag Scott Locker.
Every band we've talked to is reuniting for NCS Fest 2023. So
get
ready for it.
Yeah, get ready for the oldest mosh.
3 guitar attack. Union 3 guitar attack.
I'm gonna straight up say that's the only way I'll do a Union reunion.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got all the big names, man.
Man, you guys are throwing softball questions up. Come on.
So why did the band break up?
Oh, there you go.
Dan, well, I guess I'll take this. I think I was probably the impetus to this. So, I feel like there was a sort of a turning point where either this was going to be like a real thing, like that, where this was what like we were going to do. We had a European tour sort of like in the planning stages or booked. I don't know. Mike probably remember, but like it came to like sort of a point where it was like Ben had just graduated. I was about to graduate from college. Like I'm going to just speak for myself. Like I'd found work that felt really like meaningful for me, where it felt like I was doing something that connected with me. And I'm not the type of person where I like kind of half-ass things. So either I was going to be like all in and I was just going to tour relentlessly and just do the band, or I was going to have this other life. And so for me, it just came down to like, I was going to have this other life because I don't think I was really prepared to like spend my life on the road at that point. Because like to be a successful hardcore band, like you just have to play all the fucking time. And for me, like I couldn't picture myself being in like a bar hardcore band. That's not no disrespect. Like I couldn't picture myself being in like we play once a month at this place and whatever. Like I either wanted to like write and tour and record and like do the whole thing, or I wanted to have this like other life. And I chose like a career and like a relationship and kids and all that other stuff, because like I give Mike all the credit in the world, because Mike like just keeps the fire burning, right? Like Rob's done it, Scott's done it, like you guys have done it. I don't have that in me to like balance the two. I either need to be like all in one or all in the other, and that's just sort of where I ended up. And then just like real talk, like Ben was moving, and like Ben's like, I mean, Ben stood up on my wedding, like that's my dude, like Ben, and not like that's my heart, Ben Kumpf, you know, like. And so if Ben were to not be able to do it, that felt like a real hole for me. And so I just was like it, and I just like, if we're talking about all our feelings, like there are a few things in my life that were as heartbreaking as like telling Mike, who's like my brother from another mother, that like I had to end this thing because it meant so much to him, and still mean, I mean, he's Mike Union Jeffers, like it meant so much to him that like it literally, it still breaks my heart to have that conversation with Mike, to be like, I can't do this, and I'm not going to do this. And I'm glad that we're like cool now, but like it was a lot of years of like real hard feelings. So I guess that's my, I think I was really an impetus to it.
Let me ask you this, Keith. Talking about this, how you kind of had a mindset change. How much of an impact working at Cowpoke and working with those guys changed your kind of mentality as far as the band and hardcore went?
It wasn't really that. It was like at the same time I was like interning, like, and I sort of had shifted my degree, and I was doing like kind of community mental health, like public health stuff. And I had started like interning and working with people with HIV at the time. And so like for me, that work felt really important, and I was learning so much, like as like a white kid who grew up in the suburbs. Like I was learning so much about the world in that job, like in that stuff, that like that felt really important to me, and it just resonated with me in a different way. So when I say work, it wasn't really like I worked as a body piercer, like to pay the bills, like that was fine.
No, I'm not saying like that you're like, oh, Cowpoke, I'm going to change my life because of this. But I'm just saying the influence of them changing your mentality, where your things that were important to you changed. Because like I noticed from being around you on the Cowpoke thing, you went from hat over the eyes Jersey guy to styled hair turtleneck guy over that span of time. You know what I'm saying? Like there was a noticeable change going on with you. And it's probably wrong of me to even suggest that Cowpoke maybe had something to do with that, but there was a noticeable change going on with you at that time.
The turtleneck thing's more offensive than anything.
Like also,
I blame Reed for that.
Like also for the record, like I don't own a single turtleneck now for what it's for whatever that's worth.
I know Brown. He's not a turtleneck guy.
I personally like turtlenecks, and I wear them from time to time, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, no, I feel like I'm like getting strangled or something. But I don't know. Like that's probably like an interesting thing. I never really thought about that, but I do think that like I sort of like was exposed to a lot of different kind of people through that job and stuff. So like I think there's part of it with that. So I don't know, man. I haven't really thought about it that way, but maybe it just coincides with the time period. Like at the same time I was working there, I was also an intern and finishing up my degree and all this other stuff. So I think it might have been some of that stuff thrown in the mix, but I don't know. It's not the Keith Brown podcast, but
is that the same kind of work you're doing now, Keith?
Ish. Like I do right now. I serve as like a public health director for the county I live in. So it's a lot of COVID right now. But I did a lot of criminal justice reform work and drug policy work, and so I think there's a lineage there that it sort of was my start on that path. I just learned a lot about the world that I just didn't fucking know about, and for me, like I just felt really called to it to do what I can with whatever I can bring to the table to make a difference for people who live really different lives than I have, you know. So. I don't know.
Can we just joke and say that it was all the acoustic Oasis bootlegs that you, Ben, and I would listen to in your dorm?
It's so much Morrissey. That's what it is. So much Morrissey.
Oh, boy.
Sprig, remember that Sarah McLachlan CD me and you used to listen to all the time?
Just two head.
I'm not lying.
Scott Sprig was in Scott Spring has hardcore credentials, but let me tell you something. Nobody listens to soft-ass emotional music like Ben and I and Scott Spring in a dorm room spinning some jams.
Oh, yeah.
I want to go on record that I have nothing to do with that. That was really the wedge for me and Keith, I think. When our rooms were next to each other, when we were living in Jimmy the Puma's house, you were playing like the Deftones, and I'm like, this new metal's garbage. And then you're like, Oasis. I'd hear that all the time. Like, no, I can't take it anymore. And then I'm playing like Biohazard. I'm sure Keith was like, enough with the Biohazard.
See, I don't know why
you spent 5 minutes on Striper before, and you're gonna bust on Oasis.
Listen, I'm just saying, like, I don't know why you.
Alex, I don't really know you well, but thank you, and I love you.
No, I'm with Jeffers on this one. Like, I don't know how we weren't friends sooner. I mean, I blame the chain, but beyond that, I don't know why we weren't friends sooner.
Listen, like I said, man, I have a fantastic memory, and I could tell stories all day. But I've been on the podcast before. You guys hang out with me. There's too much good. There's one quick thing I want to say. I graduated before all the other guys, so I was out of school, and I remember Scott did an interview for a zine out of Minneapolis. And he was talking about, like, we're all in college and stuff, but our drummer, Mike, he's lucky because he already graduated and he gets to work in a warehouse. And he was saying that like, it was cool. And I'm like, oh, man. I'm like,
but you had the flexibility to tour. That's what you had, though. I think that's what he meant, right?
I know. He meant that as a Guido who was free to play on weekends. But I was lucky because I was making $6.50 an hour at the time, which was like big bucks back in 1996,
Yeah. And that free Bob Mackie cologne.
Oh, you guys all benefited from my 5-finger discount.
Man, that cologne stank, dude.
I can still smell it right now, man.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, we talked about Deftones. Ben, were you down with Deftones?
Deftones? Was I down with them?
Yeah.
I remember driving in Brown's car and listening to that really loud. You had that woofer in the back, that subwoofer. And there was one of those albums where it would be kind of like melodic, and then all of a sudden it would like kick into some really heavy stuff. I like that.
Now, did you get into Deftones before they opened for Sick of It All in Buffalo, or was that your introduction to Deftones?
Who, me?
All of you.
Oh yeah, like I mean, these guys probably have a better understanding of all that.
They were just on MTV all the time, and I remember hearing them and just hating it instantly.
Spring played
wasn't there an overlap with Will Haven from that band?
Yeah.
I know they were really good friends, which I didn't like Will Haven either.
Association. And Chris, I think you're at Chris. Were you at the Tool Zero Tolerance show?
There it is.
No, I lived in Illinois at the time, and I'm so bummed that I missed it because of the ridiculousness of it.
Okay, because I got a few things that I've always been like really fortunate to see. That was one of them, and I'll never forget Bill Page and Turtle at that point. Like, when they would always go up to people as soon as they got done. We're like, Tool gets done, and sure enough, there goes Bill Page right up and starts talking to Maynard. We're like, who's that crazy dude? Just like tattoo on his back. Long story short, we all know what Tool becomes. But a fun fact about Deftones was when I roaded with Snapcase, we played with them, or Snapcase and Donut played the basement of the DB8 club in Salt Lake City. Upstairs that night, Bad Brains are playing. Who's supporting Bad Brains? Deftones. So Deftones is opening for Bad Brains on tour. So after our show's done, we go up, see them, get this 3-song promo tape, and we're listening in the car, and we're like, this sounds like Salemi music. And we just played it over, and he would play it and just got into it, and it was great. But to me, the second album was where the Deftones like really took off, and that was an influence for me, and that's really what I think was the connection also with Rob. We had a big influence between Deftones and Helmet, and I think you can really hear that on that last 7-inch. We hear some of those riffs, and a little bit more powerful, a little bit more driving, not as metal per se. It's more, like you said, loud and heavy. That's what we're really looking for. Not a lot of single note picking stuff. So for me, that was what I was really going for. I'm trying to write something in that vein.
So Keith, when you quit, it really was like Union can either take off or this is it.
Yes.
Well, you really you really were at a crossroads in that moment.
Yeah, I mean it's still like right now. Like I knew what was happening at the time. Like it felt like, and again, Mike has all the details, right? But like I'm just like my memory of it was there was so much like interest and there was like so much drive behind the band. It felt like there was like something was pushing us forward, and it was either going to go in this direction where like I was going to commit, we were going to commit like everything to it, like, or it just wasn't going to do anything. And so like for me, like I don't know, it sounds weird, and maybe this is another like weird relationship tie-in, like Scott's like side piece thing from before, but like for me, it felt unfair, particularly to Mike. It felt unfair to be half in it and half out of it. And so like it was really clear to me at the time that like I had to either do it or not do it. And so I chose to not do it. I'd still stand by it, right? Like obviously, like, you know, like it could have been a thing, it could have not been a thing. You never know what it could have been. I felt like we had hit our stride with that 7-inch where like we would have been writing and performing like really, really good shit. Like I felt you could just feel it. And like, you know, I killed it for myself. Like that's a selfish thing, but like I couldn't be there for it. And I even said to Mike, I feel like I remember saying to Mike, like, you should still do this or whatever it is. And I remember Mike being like, Union is you and me. Like we built the thing and then we built it out from there. But like, and so I don't know, man, it still breaks my heart to have to tell Mike that. It was like telling your wife you want a divorce, man. Like, it was fucking heartbreaking. But to your point, Chris, like it was either you were all in or I was all out, and I couldn't just half-ass it, and that wouldn't be fair to anybody. So that was it. And like I said, Ben was moving. I remember Ben saying to me, like, yo, you guys could find another bassist. And me being like, yeah, I could find another bassist, but I can't find another Ben. Like, you're my best friend. Like, we're in this band together. Like, you know, like, that was it.
Keith, do you remember what the name of the album was going to be called?
No, but I bet you and Mike do.
I'm not sure.
I remember proposing the idea to you. We were going to call it Killing as an Art Form.
That's what's up, dude. That's great.
Hard.
That's heavy.
That's hard.
That's it. Now I remember we had a conversation about it because it was like tied to something. Damn.
But see, that's part of the thing with us. Like when we moved here to go to college specifically, you know, I didn't even bring my drums to Buffalo when I first moved up here because I had no intentions of doing anything but skating every day, going to class, doing my time, and moving back home and getting a job. I think with Ben and with Keith, you know, probably with Vic too, I don't think we saw beyond that at first. And when you come to the end of your run, like I graduated before everybody else first, and I was like, do I go now and just move back to New York and I'll get a job teaching there? Or do I ride this out for a little while? And I remember, Scott, you had told me, dude, you got to stay. This is like the greatest city ever. It's super cheap to live. And, you know, just stay here. And I did, you know. But because I did, you know, I met my wife. And then I had my anchor babies. And I'm stuck here. But, you know.
It's like Buffalo's holding you hostage.
Yeah. And, I mean, when Union finally broke up, you know, it was like I don't know. I guess I'm here now. You know, like I don't know. Once the wheels were going, like Keith had said, you know, like he did tell me, like, you know, even if Union's over, you just got to keep going and doing this stuff, and that's what I've done continuously. And I think, you know, because me and Keith were so close, basically I wasn't going to let anyone ever stop me from doing what I wanted to do with a band ever again. So you can make jokes, and I do too. Like, Herod was around for 15 years. We probably had 78 members of the band, you know, and it was me and Jesse who started it. But like, we're just doing what we want. If people like it, that's cool. If they don't, they can go fuck themselves. Someone will always buy my records somewhere. I'm going to do it because I want to do it, you know? So yeah, like I understand definitely. It definitely stung when the band was over. Because we were all so close, and then like Bob became like a little brother to me also, which is why I kept trying to keep working with him, and why I would always try and get Vic back into a band that I was doing or start another one with him years later, because I enjoy these guys. But that was tough because I guess I understand, Keith, what he says. It's like if we had committed to do something more and he couldn't, it really wasn't fair, not just to us, but maybe a record label. And that's like where I am now. Like, I won't put out anything on a record label if they're like, we're going to spend X amount of dollars, on vinyl and T-shirts, tapes, and CDs. If I can't go out and play all the time, if I'm just going to play Weekend Warrior, it's like, dude, just put out a CD and put it up online. I don't want to see anybody lose money, if I can't commit fully, neither should the label. But all right, sorry, that got really off the rails. But anyway,
no, it's
Scott.
you're
Scott
still
wanted
on.
to say something too. Yeah.
I was going to say something. I'm actually going to save it to the end, but I'll take this opportunity just to give Vic a shout out because, in hindsight, I feel bad that after that final 7-inch came out, we didn't give him credit for writing Cut the Strings because Vic.
Yep.
If it wasn't just the whole song, at least the main riff, like he had that main riff in that song, and I actually love playing that song because I was just so in love with 108. And as Bitch mentioned earlier, like that song was definitely geared to be in that vein. So hitting those squeals was just like me being a poor man's Victor Carl. Like, just love playing that. And shout out to Rob when we recorded the first song from that 7-inch, which is my favorite song that we ever had, Cafeteria Dream. In the recording, Rob actually hit the wrong note on the harmonic. So when you hear that, it's a beautiful accident because he hits the note and it's like, oh shit, we fucked up. And we're just like, dude, that sounds awesome. And shout out to Ben because on Cut the Strings, like the end of that song is just sick bass playing.
That's when I figured out how to play the bass, and then that was the last. I was like, all right, we're done.
Bummer.
And megaphone during that part.
yeah, that bass line is amazing.
Yeah,
It really is.
And then the live versions of us playing Cut the Strings and stuff in New Jersey with Vic playing it's pretty awesome. And Bleed is amazing from that show because we played it so much faster than when it was
awesome.
Initially
That's the
recorded.
worst part ever. I don't ever want to hear it again. It's so horrible.
No way. It's
I like
horrible.
that song.
And the recording, I was using Bob Williams from Brothers Keepers drum set, and this is back when he had
Piccolo.
like a half-inch thick piccolo that you could hear 7 states away. So it sounds way more offensive than Lars Ulrich's snare on Saint Anger, but man, that was awesome. Bob always had good gear, and him and like Derek from One King Down were the ones who like really got me into being a gearhead, with drums.
Yeah.
One King
And
Down.
last one, I just got to give Keith the shout out too. So I'm just kind of going around the horn, just kind of like boosting everyone's ego, but just wanted to say thanks and acknowledging everything that I enjoyed of playing with you guys in the band, because even Keith's vocals on that last 7-inch, you're hearing more double tracking. None of that was happening beforehand. The megaphone effect, like all those things, just kind of making it a little bit more dynamic. And Mike taking the next step on drums. So that was a great way to go out. I'm very happy that we at least got that last 7-inch out.
So how far along were you guys into the next record before Keith quit?
3 songs, I think.
Yeah, 3 or 4 songs.
Yeah.
Like I think Mike sent us those. What is it? 4 songs?
It's four songs that we had written.
Yeah, they're fucking good, man. Like you can tell, like whatever we were listening to at the time, it definitely filters into that, So
it sounds like with earlier stuff you could tell what our influences were pretty obviously, and by that point I think it sounded like its own thing where people would say, oh, it just sounded like Union at that point rather than picking out stuff. It would have been cool to see where it went But I didn't even know I still had some of these tapes because we would record stuff on a tape, that I had recorded 10,000 other things on. I just keep recording over it. So I pick up a tape and it says like Fat Boys, and I put it on, and I'm like, stick 'em, but it's not. It's like a Union song,
If you had Fat Boys reference on your bingo board,
that's right.
I like this bingo board thing. We may carry this forward.
No, only if it's a Mike Jeffers bingo board.
That's right.
Also, the reference to the Renault got you a point on that.
Striper.
That's right.
Somebody said Alex Fox lives in Las Vegas. I think Joel did in the chat.
Well, now listen, Sprig's buddy and my buddy Joel. Joel loves Striper as much as I do, and he'll back me on that. Well, Fox has like brain tumors and stuff now.
Oh no!
Treatment, and he's one of the sickest guitar players ever.
He is sick,
literally and figuratively.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
Too soon.
This has to be so. This has to be so boring for Derek and Alex.
So good.
So are those songs done? Those 3 songs, are they done, or are they just like practice recordings of them?
We would play them live, and I feel like I had like half lyrics to them. It's interesting. Mike sent them a while ago, and I was listening to them, and I was like, oh wow, like a little bit of it was starting to come back, at least like the vocal cadence, and so it just got my wheels turning. But I've been immersed in COVID stuff. I would love to sit down and actually just write, even if nothing ever happens with it. I used to love the process of one of these guys coming with a riff, and you know what I mean, and just figuring out something to it. I used to love the songwriting and recording process. I love that.
NCS Comp,
I didn't want to
NCS
say
Fest.
this, but we've been kind of throwing around the idea. Maybe we'll take this out of this so anyone watching live can hear this. We're kind of throwing around the idea of doing a comp record later on. And you guys talk about having these Union songs with no vocals. You ever put some vocals on them? Let us know.
Or give me a deadline, bro, and we'll make it happen.
We're still in the talk phase. It just kind of sprang up because of the last logo. And we'll see what happens and where it goes. But right now it's just talk.
The fest, the comp, everything.
Yeah,
I know how to play the bass now too.
Yeah, so it'd be the
better. Alex and Derek, man, you guys are quiet. What do you got going on? You got
there are 10 people in here, and I'm just trying not to step
it's
on
a lot.
everyone.
It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. That's why I'm an inclusive guy. Do you have anything you want to ask or say?
I just, do you guys have any regrets as far as with the band? I mean, you guys didn't really get to a full length or anything like that. Anything?
I've talked a lot. I'll leave it for.
Listen, at the time, I probably had some regrets, but now, I probably look most fondly on Union because it was such a different level of fun, because it was the first band that I did that committed the music, to a medium, right? Where all the bands I did in high school, we played Battle of the Bands and backyard parties and out in the middle of the woods, kind of stuff like that. Yeah. And, anyone who's been in band will tell you that first band you ever do that releases something, it's just such a special thing, you get that first 7-inch that you do, and holy shit, you're so proud of that. I mean, it's like a feeling. I mean, you get that feeling sort of with every band you do when you get a release, but with you, that very first 7-inch was a big deal. And then when Ferris said they were going to do a CD for us, a lot of people didn't have CDs then because it was too much money to do. It was a big deal. And we got that CD, and I was like, Jesus Christ, someone spent $3,000 to make a CD for us. How fucking nuts is that? You know? And also, I would say, I don't know, me and Keith were just on the same page and very protective of the band. And I know we bumped heads and rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, but it didn't fucking matter because I knew Keith was there to back me up. I remember getting into a fight at Bourbon Street on Forest, And Brown was right there after I bounced the guy's head off the bar. He was right there.
Yeah. I remember that. Wow.
That was cool.
Dude,
Sprig went to beat the hell out of a kid at the show place because he made fun of the fact that my father was dying of cancer, and Sprig went to fucking kill him. I mean, that's the kind of relationship we all had with each other, and I mean, part of it's our age. We don't realize, you kill someone, you're going to jail, your life's over. At the time, you're like, whatever, it'll be fun.
I mean, it sort of makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you ask, if we have any regrets, Mike and I, and then we had Ben, you've got a couple of guys who have Long Island or New York accents, and we're sort of a lot. We just had 2 hours of a podcast. We're sort of a lot. And so I think it felt to me over the last couple of years, especially after Scott joined the band, that we formed relationships with people where I was surprised we didn't have them already with people. But then when you think about how kind of hard we can come at people, it makes sense, right? It's somebody talks shit about one of us and we're I'm going to fucking kill you. That can be a little overwhelming, especially from guys who are not from an area where you're we literally didn't give a shit. If somebody talks shit about Mike, I was I'm going to kill that person. We were wild in that way, but we were just super protective of each other. We were family. And so when you're in a band with somebody, a group of people, it's like being in a family, a marriage, a business, a relationship. It's I try to describe to people that you're smelling that person 24 hours a day in a van, sleeping on top of fucking cabinets. And so you either, or you have this mix of where that person looks at you the wrong way and you're I could rip that person's jugular out if they look at me one more time. But if somebody else says something about that person, you're I will go to the ends of the earth to see you die. It's that kind of bond. And when you take that and you drop it into another place where you're not from, I get where people are fuck those guys. You know what I mean? I totally get it 1,000%. In retrospect, it makes all the sense in the world. But over the last couple of years, some of those guys from Snapcase, those guys from Hourglass, I never had beef with those guys in Hourglass, not one time. I never didn't like them. I loved them. The first time I saw them play live, I was these guys are fucking good. I never had beef with them. People would manufacture shit that then you'd hear, and somebody'd be oh, I heard you guys got beef with Hourglass. You're I don't have fucking beef with Hourglass.
Well,
and then it becomes a thing.
But that's the good story there. It was manufactured by someone to beef with us in Hourglass. And I remember it going around. The rumor was that Hourglass had said that Union only got shows because Sprig booked the shows and put us on them, right? And then there was a rumor they were going to fight us. They wanted to fight us at the Showplace show with the Blood Let Dead guy won with all our bands. And I remember Nate and Kevin and Dean from Big Block. They're dude, are you going to get into a fight? I'm no, man. I'm not. No, they're just a bunch of kids. It's no big deal. It's cool, right? The show's over. Next thing I know, there's Dean, there's Kevin, and there's Nate. They got chains and baseball bats. They're dude, we're ready to go if you are. I'm dude,
they were not
going to be a fight.
100% overkill.
I'm they're not going to fight.
They just wanted to start a fight. Those guys.
That show was so great.
Oh,
I love every band on that.
Both of those. Everything.
I still listen to Bloodlet and Dead Guy constantly.
Yeah, I listen to Dead Guy a lot. Bloodlet not so much these days, but Dead Guy definitely.
And Theogen is one of the best fucking heavy records that's ever been released ever.
Yeah.
Fucking
That's how you
ever.
pronounce that?
Can't fuck with it.
And Theogen, I think.
Yeah.
No? But
That's it.
And the GM.
And
Yo,
Theogen.
It's no fixation on a coworker, dude.
It is not a good
Yeah.
record.
That's it. You can't fuck with that record.
Yeah.
Fixation on a coworker changed the hardcore scene.
No
Yeah.
joke. No
It did.
joke.
It came out and Converge wanted to be Dead Guy. And then so many other bands got to that noisier sound.
All else.
I wanted to be Dead Guy after that.
Yeah, All Else Fail from Philly formed specifically to be Dead Guy.
And that band is fucking great.
Oh yeah,
None of them
they
ever
still
met
are.
it. Met.
What'd you say, Derek?
I said
Nobody-
none of them are as good as that guy.
Yeah, nothing ever touched him.
Yo, Bitter Branches is fucking good though. Tim Singer's new shit.
Oh
that
yeah,
is
that's
good.
Yeah, it's Tim. You know, his voice is incredible. So
Those musicians are great too, though. That record is amazing.
So sick. He's like the best singer. That new No Escape record that came out like 2 weeks ago is fucking phenomenal. Love it.
Yeah, I have it on my shelf. I still need to listen to it. So that
Oh.
brings us to each of you. What is your current favorite hardcore band going? And then we'll probably wrap this up because we're hitting 2 hours and it's a Sunday night.
I'll go first only because this took me 2 seconds to think about. Be Well. That is it's not only my favorite hardcore record, that was my album of the year last year. I feel that record encompasses everything that I'm into. It's hardcore, it's got melody, it's got great guitar playing, and it has amazing, sincere lyrics that talk on deep subjects. That touches everything in my life. Perfect record.
it's dad hardcore.
And I'm a dad.
It's still awesome.
Larry Brent, what's up? Good to see you in here.
All right, who's next?
I'll go.
No, I just named it. It's that Bitter Branches record. I can't wait till they put out more shit. Like anything Tim Singer does, especially with that group of musicians, like it's great.
They
Sorry, Ben.
recorded, I think, so they have something coming up soon.
Yeah, I just saw that. I'm fired up about it.
I just wanted to tell Sprig that when that "I Killing I" song
Oh,
came
yeah.
out this year,
So good, dude.
blew my mind, dude.
That was my favorite. That was my
And did you guys record that in 2020 during the pandemic, or was that an old recording, or what?
2020.
So was that like all like remote, just sharing tracks and building it and making a song, or you guys are all in the studio, or what?
Music in Buffalo. Scott did the vocals in LA before he moved
Yeah.
back. So he
Okay.
lives in Buffalo as of November.
All right. Well, I mean, truth be told, I don't listen to a lot of hardcore these days, but I do listen to a lot of stuff back in the day. And that song came out, and that's in my, it's in my playlist. You know what I mean? Right after like Edie Brickell and the New Bohemians.
Oh my god.
I prefer the old Bohemians.
Oh, look at Alex with his text press.
Nice.
I think it's like 13 copies of it or something stupid.
All right, who's
Send me
next?
one.
What record is that? I got distracted.
Buried Alive.
Ah,
There you go.
All right, who's next?
I like there's this band called Entry. They're I think they're based out here. My good friend Chris plays drums with them.
Mhm.
So if you like a really aggressive female fronted, pulverizing hardcore, they do it well. Entry. I think it's Entry Band Music or whatever. But
Okay.
that Buried Alive record, Scott, that is unbelievable. So good. Such an amazing thing to hear you play so
Yeah.
fucking fiercely. And I love Scott Vogel, and I love Terror. I love the last thing I heard by Terror. I'm like Ben, and I listen to and Scott too, I know, and probably all you guys really, but like I like much. My music taste is so crazy and all over the place. I mean, Mike Jeffers can attest that I was listening to Blind Melon when he met me. I still like Blind Melon.
Tones of Home, man. You can't mess with that.
The Soup is a good record, and
That's what I'm saying.
there's a lot of heavier music that's like my brother's in a band called Facility Men, and I think they're the best Buffalo band ever, like hands down. And it's my brother, but if I didn't know it was my brother, they're heavier than shit, and they're so fucking weird. It's like weird. It's oddball music, but to me that's like hardcore in a different way, I guess. But
Yeah,
but
Ralphie's awesome.
yeah. So that's my thing.
All right, Jeffers, Rob, what do you got?
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
My buddy sent me this thing the other day, and I don't really know who's in it, but it was like the heaviest thing. They're called End. If anyone knows I don't know if I'm. Does anybody know what the band End is? It's like the heaviest thing in the world.
I believe Jay Pepito was in that band.
Yeah.
Reign Supreme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's
That's
going to
what
be
I've been
singing
listening
for
to the
Shy
last
Halud
month.
when they play their next show, whenever that is, which is weird to me, but okay.
Also, real quick shout out to Achilles, bro. Like Rob's band Achilles after Union, consistently amazing. Like consistently amazing.
You guys just have a new book come out, right, Rob? I was saying.
Yeah, actually,
It looks awesome. The book looks awesome.
Shout
Great.
That's literally 3 years of my life putting that thing together. It's
I don't know
250
anything
pages.
about this. You want to talk about that real quick? Because I
It's a-
legitimately don't know anything about it.
It's a coffee table book about coffee tables.
Yeah.
Right, Kramer.
I'll make it quick, obviously, because this is about Union, but quick plug. Made this book. It's like an anthology book for the band Union. Achilles. I've been playing them. But yeah, it's photos, interviews. We went through every single track and talked about how we came up with it and what each track is all about. And yeah, literally took me 3 years of my life, and very happy and very proud of it.
Yeah, it was
That's
worth
really
it,
cool.
Rob. It's awesome. For sure.
Thanks.
Jeffers, what do you got?
I
Favorite hardcore band?
probably enforced. Juggernaut got to play with them in a basement on the east side like a year or two ago. It's like the Rivalry reunion show, and I just couldn't believe these kids were shredders and a half, you know. But they, you know, they're definitely like metal kids, you know, or at least they were taught by you know, metalheads. But it's got like a legit hardcore feel to it, and I think they're pretty sweet. But you know, I got to be honest. The older I get, I tend to really just focus between like probably like 1978 and 1986. You know, 95% of what I listen to at this point. You know, some of the stuff I used to like, I got to question my sanity,
Or at least your taste.
well, definitely that too. You know,
Yeah.
I'd have more to add to the list, but like we haven't been. Even though we've had this pandemic going on, I think I've gotten less done with being home more. And I'm actually a kind of person like me and Bob talk about this all the time. Like if there was no pandemic, I'm practicing with like 4 bands every week, plus playing shows, then working, taking my kids to all their sports, and then doing all my union stuff. I only sleep a couple hours a night. Now I'm like forced to just be home and not do anything. And like I have no motivation. You know, once the shows start going again, like it'll add to the list. I do say like, you know, I do like Exhibition. You know, Violent Way I think is pretty sweet. It's cool to see these younger guys doing just having a cool different take, you know, than a lot of bands in Buffalo usually do.
And we just dropped the Violent Way episode with Mason today, so anybody listening.
Good
should go check that
segue.
out.
Great
Good.
segue. Oh, for people who might be listening to this, all the Union stuff is up on Bandcamp right now.
Yeah.
So where do they find that stuff?
Union Hardcore, Union HC at bandcamp.com.
Okay, cool.
It is for free. Name your price. Someone paid me $4 for it, so I will be sending like 8 cents to everybody once I get the check.
No.
Keep it, bro. Keep it, bro.
Mike.
Put it in the band fund, man.
You guys are missing that he's keeping like $380 for himself.
Oh,
An administrative fee.
That's how it used to be.
Nobody would remember this band except us if it wasn't for you, Mike. So you keep it.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, he did legally change his name, so
Yeah.
well, you know, Alex, we talked about this. I had no choice, right? Like when I got an email address in like 1997, we were doing Union, so I was like, all right, Mike Union at Hotmail. And
Rob
then, like,
Union at Hotmail.
and then like everybody I would meet would have that thing. And then I wound up getting a job in a union, and it's easy for other people in the union to get a hold of me because, like, oh, Mike Union. So, like, I couldn't shake it if I wanted to. I did have a Mike to the World one once, like a year, but it doesn't roll off the tongue.
It doesn't work.
No.
Nothing
Does
rolls off the
anybody,
tongue.
anybody come up to Sandy and be like, "Hey, Sandy Union, how you doing?"
No. But Matt Fox from Shai Hulud calls her Sandy to the World.
Nice.
You know.
Hey,
All right.
just like a quick props to the guys from NCS. Like, it's cool that you're doing this. Like, it's really great. Like, I've been listening to the episodes. It's really cool that you're sort of resurrecting, you know, and keeping alive this time. Like, especially like that time in Western New York for hardcore was like, it would be hard to imagine a better place and a better time when every band that came through that was big and hardcore like had to come through Buffalo or Syracuse or Rochester like at the time. So like that 90s period like was amazing. That's why those people like came in from New Zealand and spent like a month there. They just they could, they could
Oh,
see
I got
every
that
one of their
too.
favorite bands. Like, yeah,
Cash Dog. Shout out
just
Cash
it's just-
Dog.
it's hard to describe to people that like you could see every band you love
Remember
would
that?
come through. Like they had to come through there. So like just props. Like and you guys do a great job. So it's just
Thank
awesome. Keep it up.
That's really
Okay.
nice. Thanks.
Echo that.
We can't go yet without mentioning the fact that we did play with Limp Bizkit and Sugar Ray at the Warped Tour, and Sugar Ray
You did.
played before us on the same stage.
You did.
Sugar Ray opened for us.
And
Like
Yeah.
I think is the way to phrase that.
in true Mike Jeffers fashion, where I've said it about Korn and Papa Roach and stuff like that, this band will never go anywhere. And sure enough, Sugar Ray, have they ever done anything? Come on.
Nah, never heard of them.
Yo, why didn't you say anything about my bands, fucker?
Wait, wait. Do you want to talk about like Dead Hearts and Achilles and Herod playing together in Rochester?
Nah, I don't want to talk about that.
We gotta wrap this up, yo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2 hours. Nobody cares.
It's a Sunday night. Come
I
on.
think Scott said he had one more thing to say. Do you still have that, Scott, or no?
Well, let's let Mark ask the closing question, and Scott can give. Everyone can give kind of a final comment, and that'll be that.
Okay, who do you guys think we should have on this podcast in the future?
I think you should have that guy Mark from Zero Tolerance on again because that podcast was awesome. Like honestly, like I listened to that thing. I was working and like I'm not a big hardcore guy, but I've been listening to your podcast and I listened to him and I was like, this guy is so well spoken, and I was like, I was totally moved by that guy. And I've never met him. I don't know anything about him, but just have him back on.
Awesome.
I rest my case, please.
If he wants to.
I yield my time.
The speaker goes back.
Seriously though, it was really good.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I would say I would actually listen to an entire episode of Chris talking shit.
You don't
too.
want that.
No. I would. It would be must listen for me to hear Chris for like, I mean, not like 2 hours, but maybe like 45 minutes just talking shit.
I'll ask leading questions.
No,
Yeah,
you
like,
don't-
I would-
I'm finally friends with people that I was not
No.
friends with.
I
before,
want
and
you to.
don't wanna
I want you to
fuck
get
that
in
up.
it. I want you to get in a time
Don't wanna fuck
machine.
that up.
I want you to get in a time machine. I want you to get in touch with like 1994 to 1999 Chris Wyatt. I want you to talk as much shit as you want. I'll listen to every second of it.
I'll just call you. How about that? Then nobody else.
That's
has to know.
fine. I'll send you my cell number right now.
So I had a hard time narrowing this answer to two people, and I'll say two only for this reason: the kid in me and the Chris Wyatt in me wants to see Brian Foister, and I'm assuming you already have something up the roadmap for them. So that's one that I really look forward to, and I envision that coming in soon. The realistic timeline for this group, I would love to see you guys talk to Andy Williams to see his time prior to Every Time I Die for the bands that he did. I grew up with Andy in North Tonawanda. I mean, he lived I was like his paper boy when I was like 14, he was like 11.
How are you not older than Andy Williams?
I am older than Andy Williams.
That's what I thought.
You better have Steve Titus on.
Yeah, look at that shirt.
Dude, Titus doesn't do the internet.
Michael
Okay,
got it. Mike
Okay.
will
Look
get
at
it.
that Eraserhead shirt behind him. That's awesome. Who is that? Shout out to David Lynch.
There's
I
someone
feel like
behind
that's
Titus
Bob
before I
or
see.
something.
It's in Cleveland at the Cleveland Fest.
Brian Foister we're doing in May.
So this
Nice.
is just for one person
He's
that we'd
actually-
like to see on here.
What's that?
Is this for one person that we'd like to see on the podcast?
Yeah. Who you got?
I'd love to see Jesse Moscato get on here. I don't know if he has yet or not.
Working on it.
Because to me, I've been chatting back and forth with Jesse for the past year or so, and I'll be honest, like he's one of my favorite people ever in the world, and like I adore him, and I always felt kind of not bad, but like I kind of identify with Jesse because he was this weird little dude that just kind of came into the hardcore scene, like kind of felt like I was like that too. Like I didn't really feel like I fit into the whole, I wasn't a tough guy, and I wasn't part of the Buffalo crew, but like, I played guitar and I was in a band. And Jesse was kind of like me in that sense too. And he used to come to the coffee shop that I worked at, and like his girlfriend did this like goth industrial thing, and like it was like open mic night, and it just used to make me laugh because he was always so supportive of her, and like just a good human being. And I'd love to hear him talk about music from where he's coming from, because I think it would be really interesting, like what he would have to say.
Definitely. Working on it.
Cool.
Okay, has anyone else got anything?
Yeah, I think it'd be a great episode if you had Scott or Chris Ring or Titus and have people talk about the different shows that they've booked, maybe separately, maybe together. That way there isn't like a specific band focus. You could just talk about this or that. And they did a little bit of that on the Enterprise Hardcore podcast, but I'd like to hear it more Buffalo specific. I think it'd be great.
Cool.
Get Doug White on.
Yeah.
There's a plan.
We will.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
We've got a list.
Perfect.
We've got a list. All right. So I think we're gonna wrap it up there.
No
Thank
way.
you guys.
Scott, you had
purposely-
something you wanted to bring at the end, right?
Yeah, bring it up.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to say before it all wrapped up, and I think I speak for everyone on this podcast when I mention this, I just wanted to not only give a shout out to Sandy, but just thank Union, because I look at Union as what put Mike and Sandy together. She's one of like the best supportive wives that I've ever seen in my entire life. And I think it's pretty cool that my son and Mike's daughter are actually the same age. Mike's youngest daughter, they're actually in school in the same
class
together.
Nice.
So that's pretty cool. But just not only that Sandy is supportive and really amazing person, but they met at Union playing at Discovery Records. So if Union wasn't a band, wouldn't have been at Discovery Records, Mike wouldn't have met Sandy, and history wouldn't have taken place.
Yeah, I mean, if Union wasn't a band, Mike would be in Long Island somewhere teaching like other Guidos.
Man, well, you know what, man? We actually have to, just thank God that Sandy didn't like take Titus up on his offer of a date. He put the offer out first, and then I was like, man, I'm gonna ask her out. So might have to thank Titus, but I appreciate, It is weird that we've come full circle, and Scott's son and my daughter in the same class together.
Where's the chain?
Where's the pro?
It's on, and I either have a Better Than 1,000 shirt or a 4 Big Block one there.
The white sneakers make up for the lack of chain.
Those are white cabs, man.
Yeah, it makes up for the lack of chain.
It
keeps your Guido status quo going.
That's right. That's right. I just think it's amazing that we could have this conversation 25 years later, for the most part. And we've all managed to, I don't know, it's different parts of our lives seem like we could have got in a lot more trouble than we did and could have gone a completely different way. And the fact that, we're all, you guys are all like upstanding citizens, the other guys in Union. I'm just, look at me, dude. I'm just a Guido who like teaches history because I can't forget any facts. But you guys all have like discernible life skills. But it's amazing that we can do this. And the fact that I remember, when I first met Mark at the student union in '94, he's with Titus. This was before I introduced Titus to like the Cro-Mags, and he bought a Warzone shirt and immediately cut the sleeves off. It's just funny to see where we've all wound up, and yeah, we've all had like differences, but it doesn't really matter at this point. Like, it didn't necessarily work for Union per se, but for each one of us, we wound up doing what we wanted to do. Union breaking up didn't stop me or the other guys from doing musically what we wanted to do. So yeah, it was pretty cool. Everybody was just willing to do this. It wasn't like, I don't know if Sprig's going to want to do this, or I don't know if Keith's going to want it. It was like, hell yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. It's true. There was no question. Like, nobody said, I don't know. Like, it was like, no, who's missing? Let's do it. I love you guys.
Yeah. And I mean, like, that's the thing, even if we don't see each other all the time, I think, Ben, unfortunately, you're the one that I see the least. But the thing is, if I saw Ben in person, it's like, for me, it would feel like we hadn't skipped a beat.
Yeah.
You know, like all of us just have that relationship.
We
you
got to
know,
get
with
that
one another.
recording going for the comp we're gonna do.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not messing around, man.
Me neither. Let's do it.
All right.
Listen, just so you know, if you have nobody else committed to it, Union is committing to your comp if you'll have us.
This is the first we've talked about it outside of a text thread.
We're getting track one.
But now as it's getting out there, it might become a thing. Like I think we have 5 or 6 bands that would probably do it.
We're in. You better do a fest after that.
Oh, that's Ben in talk.
BT headlining.
I need just so you know, I'm 40. I'm 44. I'm gonna need like 3 to 6 months to get in shape for it if you're gonna do a fest. Okay.
You know, it's funny because I'm talking to a couple of people, and one guy was like, "Dude, ZT does a reunion. I'm there. I don't care how old I am. I don't care how I have to get there. I'm there." And I feel like that there's more than one person who would do that.
Oh yeah. Well, you guys are keeping this, like I said before, you guys are making this thing happen. So feels like the right thing to do for people to support you too.
Hey, you know what? I just thought of something. It's like totally out of left field. Like Union, when we played shows, we had a lot of our friends from UB who were all downstaters who would come and see us. And Mark had put up some pictures from our 7-inch, like our release show we had at Kenzie's at Lockport. And there were like a ton of Long Island kids and people from the dorms there. Did our entourage of people rub people the wrong way too?
I don't remember that.
No, I'm asking. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to look at things from the outside. While you're right in the mix of things. Like I said, when Maz guy explained we were tourists, and I was like, oh my god, that makes total sense. Or when Keith is like, I guess downstairs, some of us are very aggressive in the way that we approach things, I mean, I know I'm a jerk,
No, you're not.
Any of my
You're
friends
the
tell
guy
me.
ever, dude.
And, I am a ball buster. I'm a ball buster, and a lot of people don't maybe understand that, Keith, we used to do this thing. We were always tell each other, go fuck yourself, literally all the time. But it was coming from a loving place, Yeah. It's just what we did. Exactly. It's yeah. So thank you guys. I mean, I appreciate it. I still think, if you could, I had mentioned some people to Mark. I thought you should have on. You said you're working on it. And then there's one that you guys know that I would want on, one band, but I don't think that's necessarily going to happen.
Draper's not from Buffalo, dude.
They stayed here at Holiday Inn, though. So.
Nice.
But there is one band I would love to see on here.
Who is that?
Tension.
And that's where it ends. No,
that's where it ends.
Now we'll get him on.
Yeah, we'll have Tension.
Yeah, we'll get him on.
Good.
So thank you guys for doing this. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for invading people's homes with us. I want to thank Bethany and Kelly and Larry and EVR and Joel and Tim for interacting in the comments, and anybody else who's watching. Guys, get in the comments. Let us know that you're watching this so we keep doing this. The next one of these we do, we're going to have Johnny Chow on, so make sure you check it out and get some of that deep Buffalo history and some of that, Stone Sour gossip, maybe. We'll see. Maybe we'll hear about some heads and bags. Maybe we'll hear about some other shit. But, thanks, everybody, for thank you, guys. Thank you.
Scott, what's up?
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, whoever Chad Harper is, thanks for watching.
All right.
Rob's buddy.
Scott, you had your hand up. What do you got?
I was going to shout out EVR and say that actually that would be another great person to bring on. That dude he's like the grandpa for, and I don't mean that, the catalyst for so much music. Literally that dude is in the middle of everything.
That's like the Buffalo music sensei. Get EVR on.
Totally. I am who I am because of Eric. So
we talked to him about it when he was on a live stream, and it's. I would expect that to happen.
He's known all of us since we were teenagers. It would be great to have him on every episode. We could talk about what pieces of shit all of us were when we were younger,
Yeah.
and how it turned out okay later.
He should 100% talk about the most embarrassing record he ever sold anybody, all of us. He should name names. Just do it. I think he sold me a Kid Rock record. I'm out.
Oh, shit.
I guarantee he'll tell the story about me rushing into Home of the Hits at 7:58 to buy all Roy Saves.
That's not embarrassing, though. That's great.
That's not embarrassing.
That's not a record. It's only worse next to Tony All.
Yeah, Tony.
All right.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Have a good night, guys.
See you guys.
Good night, guys. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.